Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is episode 4 as we deep dive Glow of the Everflame by Nicole, covering chapters 24 through 28. By now you probably know this, but just in case there's any first-time listeners here, all of these episodes have spoilers for all 3 released books in the Kindred's Curse saga, which means spoilers for Spark, Glow, and Heat of the Everflame.
So if you ever wondered, are the fantasy fangirls going through every single gift from the Ascension Ball and how they are used, / how they might be used in the future books? The answer is yes, and it will be today. So if you have not finished the series, please go read them all. We will be here when you're done.
Next, we at Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
The foot massage scene, it may have passed, it may be over, but Luther is the man who keeps on giving, and we are getting his ball speech today. And don't worry, we're also going to hear a lot from balls expert Aemonn Courbois, so please be mindful of those little listening ears.
I'm a mature adult, it's fine.
Sure.
Additionally, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events. Coming up very soon, Nicole and I are hosting an Empyrean-themed trivia in Boulder, Colorado on July 10th. It is sold out, but we have a waitlist you can sign up for. We will also be featured guests at Enchanticon in St. Louis, Missouri, August 15th through 17th. We are so excited. We've been getting our own outfits for the ball, and there's hoop skirts involved, everybody.
Oh, God, I'm terrified for our luggage. Then we will be at the Everflame Ball along with Nicole for the first ever KINDRED'S Curse Saga Ball on August 30th in Castle Rock, Colorado. This will also include a live Q&A with Penn at the ball. I'm so excited. Then we will be back at the Dragon Gauntlet in Boyne City, Michigan, September 12th through 13th. Mountainside Obstacle Course, we're coming for you.
Then Romantasy BookCon in Orlando, Florida, October 23rd through 25th, where we are interviewing Rebecca Yarros again at Disney World.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events.
Last thing before we jump into this Glow of the Everflame episode 4. If you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and so much more, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 tiers that you can join. Number 1, The Descended, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, a book club, exclusive author interviews, community events, promo codes for live events, plus exclusive designs and 20% off all merch. That is for $6 a month. Or you can join the Royal Family, which includes everything from the Descended level, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines. Yes, like the 40, 50-page ones, you get them all. And you also get special voting privileges. That is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have our Crowns Council, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers, plus more behind-the-scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, a private Discord channel, and your name shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
Join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes. And really and truly, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into our livelihood. It's all because of you.
And now it is time to order Henry Albanon to the dungeons! But sadly, he does not remain there.
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round as we consult with our royal advisors to discuss what happens in chapters 24 through 28 of Glow of the Everflame.
Chapter 24. Learning from her past mistakes, Diem has Eleanor pick out a few dress options for the ball. No need to embarrass herself again so soon after the funeral fiasco yesterday. While it's not very her, Diem has picked out her perfect costume of choice. Sitting on Sarai's perch, Diem watches the guests arrive and is shocked not only by their choice in attire, but also their rides. It's lions and tigers and cars. Oh my! Aemonn picks up Diem for their date and gives her a gift of a gold medallion engraved with a sigil of House Courbois. He clearly went to Jared's. But Aemonn is aghast when Diem pokes fun at him for blackmailing her into this date. Aemonn, wordsmithing master, balls expert extraordinaire, is not gonna take it. Instead, he brings up Luther and spills some tea. Luther is lying to Diem, and everything tonight was his idea. And up until this point, everything has been a setup for more power. And it looks like Diem is starting to learn from her past mistakes here as well, because she almost believes him. Chapter 25. While paving their way through the servants' passages, Aemonn informs Diem all about the lowly, weak palace staff and how they are courbois. But Diem does not get the chance to ask questions when a shout catches her attention. Oh shit, Henri is here. I thought we got rid of him already. After yelling at everyone to clear the room, Diem begs her, whatever he is at this point, to leave for his own safety. But homeboy isn't having it. Henri doubles down, not on their relationship. No, that's just too convenient. He's out for blood and he's brought backup to ensure he gets it. Not wanting to see the bloodshed on either side, Diem tries again to persuade Henri to change his mind. If only Diem had magic mind control powers to force him to leave or something. Doing the next best thing, Diem calls in the guards to escort him to the dungeon. After which, Aemonn steps in to console her, but Diem only wants her boo Luther. Yeah, she does. Once the man of my heart arrives, Diem tells him everything, and Luther has a brilliant beyond brilliant idea. Let's use the people with mind control to convince the Guardians to get the fuck out. This being the best of both worlds, Diem allows for the Umbros Descended to have their magic back. Chapter 26. I guess Aemonn can have one single W this episode, since he obviously knows how to make a grand entrance. Waltzing into the ball's expert leads Diem directly to the other courbois and let the game of politics officially begin! Diem, may the odds be ever in your favor. It's not a party without gifts, though. Each of the 8 realms representatives take their turns giving Her Majesty a coronation gift. Even after the drama-filled gift-giving, Diem still doesn't get a break. Between House Bennett housing the Umbros Descended, which is sus, and House Honavs being the general pain in the asses that they are. But Diem, being Diem, knows exactly how to get under Marth Honavs' skin, practically eviscerating her. Take that, Marth! Chapter 26, again, Luther's edition. Smash cut to our boy, who has just finished with the Umbros Descended, sending all of them home this little piggy style. Returning to the ball, Luther watches Diem, and homeboy's got it bad. Sadly, Luther's got a worm to deal with. Walking to the dungeon, the two men finally have a face-to-face. I'm with Luther on this one, though. Can't we just leave Henri in the freaking cell? After a pissing match of sorts, Luther accidentally lets it slip that he knows Arlie used to lead the Lumno Cell Guardians. Not wanting to expand on this little mishap, Luther leads Henri out of the dungeon with an attempt at giving Henri some helpful Diem advice. Don't be a dick! There. Advice. Henri, reading between the lines, calls Luther out for the one thing he really doesn't want Henri to know. Luther wants Diem all to himself. With one final comeback, Luther leaves to serve his queen. Chapter 27. Back to Diem. Hours into the ball, Diem finally finished receiving the line of guests. What better way to celebrate than to steal some wine and hide away from everybody? Same girl, same. After downing half a bottle, Diem decides she should probably make an appearance at her own ball. But then Luther's voice sounds outside her hiding spot, followed by the one, the only, Ileana. What else would Diem, fueled by wine and poor decisions, do but hunker down and eavesdrop? Ileana does not hold back. She's got her eyes on Lou and her magic all ready to challenge Diem. But like the great protector he is, Luther shuts that shit down hard and fast. Back in the balls room, balls expert Aemonn pulls Diem to the dance floor for their first and only dance. I would say I hope he wore steel-toe shoes, but honestly, I don't. Break his toes, Diem! Interrupting his brother's moment in the spotlight, Taryn asks the queen for a dance, and it takes all of 2 minutes before she accidentally spills the beans about Henri to Taryn. Oops! Trying to get another reprieve from the crowd. Again, same girl, same. Diem runs into Jean Honavs, and while he might get a few verbal jabs in, Jean Honavs is no Jean Valjean, and before you can say 24601, Luther Courbois hands him his ass. Chapter 28. By the end of the evening, Diem is basically doing the wobble with all of her besties, but now there is only one dance left, and luckily for Diem, Luther swoops in, saving her from another dance with balls expert Aemonn. After exchanging TLDRs for the evening, Diem opens up about her insecurities and about the whole mess she's living in. While spilling her demons, Diem exposes one more secret. She's planning to take down the crowns and stop the Descended. God fucking damn it, Diem. But Luther doesn't even bat an eye. He's game for anything that involves Diem, and he's not afraid of telling her either. And boy, oh boy, does he! He might as well have just said his mating vows for how much he went for it. And yes, I will be going through every fucking moment! Oh, and did I mention the entire time Diem and Luther are basically having their own mating ceremony, bearing their souls to each other? The ball is still happening. Well, Diem does love a crowd.
All right, thank you so much for that, Nicole. Now, friends, it is time to reach for our foraging magic. Hey, that actually does apply for this episode. And unravel key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing theories, and so much more. Oh my goodness, this is going to be a roller coaster of an episode, and I am so excited because we've got a ball in our honor to attend. But first, let's quickly make sure we're all on the same page with the timestamp. It's the same day as where we left off last episode, where Diem had dancing and magic lessons in the dungeons that morning. After an unsuccessful attempt at conjuring her magic, Diem and Eleanor are strategizing Diem's appearance and what she should convey to all of Amarian as the new Queen of Lumnos. More on that in a moment. It is 5 days after King Ulthar died and Diem received the crown, 1 day after the funeral and cousin's dinner party.
It is wild to remember that Diem has not even been a queen for a week yet. She's had 5 business days. I take 5 business days to return an email. Think of all the things she's done in 5 business days. That is insane.
The palace has been extra busy as guests from all over Lumnos pour in. I assume first for yesterday's funeral and now for the Ascension Ball. It's my understanding that the Ascension Ball is tradition among the 9 realms when a new crown comes of power. And tonight, the palace is ready for the festivities. The palace already appears as if it's made of light and shadow, and now the dark tangle of shadow vines have sprouted thousands of flowers that twinkle with light. So it looks like a midnight field of sparkling flora. Oh my goodness, how beautiful. Also, is anyone else getting Isabella vibes from Encanto?
Ooh, okay, I can see it. With any big event for Diem, it is time for a fit watch. And you know what? She's finally asked Eleanor for help with the outfit for the evening.
Huzzah! We finally got there, everybody.
Thank God. But there's an abundance of choices for tonight, and her attire matters truly more than ever, especially after yesterday with the funeral, which brings us back to the ever-present theme of us versus them. Because in the world of the Descended, how you look is almost everything. What they wear is a reflection of who they are and who they have already been prejudged to be. Before a Descended even gets the chance to know themselves, they are already put into a box based off their house, the strength of their magic, and their political standing. This puts Diem, though, in a very unique situation, as Eleanor puts it. No one has known her since birth. No one has judged her based off of who she was when she was young and who her family was. No one told her she was weak when it came to magic and therefore was irrelevant. She is a completely new blank slate, and she gets to decide through this outfit how the realm will treat her and the perception she is choosing for herself this evening. So what picture does she want to paint for herself this evening? Diem knows she wants to hide her insecurities. She definitely wants to hide her plan for the realms and taking on the Descended. She wants to hide the vulnerability she feels in this role, but that's what she doesn't want them to see. And she's really struggling with thinking what she wants them to see. Does she want a modest emerald gown with the insignia of Lumnos literally stitched into the fabric to showcase that she's a regal stateswoman? Or does she want a barely there slip of reddy orange that would most likely bring up images of her in bed rather than on the throne? I don't know, Diem. You can do a lot on the throne if romantasy has taught me anything. Or does she want a twist on a soldier's uniform that makes her look more like a fearsome warrior queen? Honestly, this is probably the outfit I'd end up going with. That sounds fun. At the end of the day, Diem does go with none of those above and instead goes with exactly what Eleanor calls her, a blank slate. The top of her white dress is made of sheer panels for the corset, edged with white boning and coated in diamonds trickling down like stardust. Then there's swaths of silk hanging off her shoulders, like kind of like that off the shoulder look. And then she's got gossamer skirts moving like waterfalls as she walked. Paired with her white hair and her gray eyes, this is exactly how Diem wants to appear. She wants to be that pure, innocent queen, the blank canvas, the white flag, the blushing bride, quote, soft, virginal, harmless. All the things I wasn't. I love this image even more, especially when you pair it with the shimmering light that Aemonn decorates them as they make their grand entrance with. But then, of course, there's the dark, thorny crown on top of her head to completely contrast the look. Oh my God, it's so good! Now, when it comes to Diem, she takes no credit for this outfit, though. When she's in the ball, she instead loudly and obnoxiously proclaims that this was Eleanor's idea, proclaiming that she is the wise one and our fair queen would be lost without her advice. I feel like she's trying to rewrite the narrative that, like, Eleanor is just this irrelevant corbois, and instead she's trying to be like, she is cunning. She is who I appointed for a reason.
Exactly. She is talking Eleanor up because it's a mix of overriding what happened at the funeral and bragging about how valuable her advisor is, while proving how House Courbois was wrong to write her off as unimportant.
Yeah.
With it being ball time, you know who that means. We're meeting up with Aemonn Courbois, Ball's expert and Diem's escort for this evening. And he has a gift for the new queen. It is a gold medallion on a long, thin chain with the Courbois sigil engraved in it, a crest with a phoenix whose flaming wings spread wide as it rises from smoke. There are 2 tiny sapphires in its eyes and a dark ruby over the phoenix's heart. The ruby represents the blood of Lumnos that runs in their veins, and the sapphires represent the Umbros Descended eyes. The phoenix signifies that House Courbois always survives. No matter who tries to destroy them, they will always rise again. We'll get into Eleanor's alternative perspective on the meaning behind the phoenix next episode, but for now, this necklace with the sigil of House Courbois is a message for Diem to embrace as she prepares to go into the political battlefield that is this Ascension Ball. Diem is a survivalist, and as Aemonn says, wearing the House Courbois sigil is a clear message this evening as she meets the 20 houses, interacts with all the important people of the realm, and is introduced to the other realm's representatives. It's a symbol that she is part of House Courbois, so don't fuck with her, because if anyone tries to bring her down, she'll only come back stronger. Which, hey, it's a smart move on Aemonn's part. I feel like we say that a lot about Aemonn, because it's a classic Aemonn move that both benefits Diem and very much himself, because after all, this can be perceived as his claim to her, as Diem notes.
Well, and it's so Aemonn that after he puts it on her, he says, quote, "There, now you're ready." It's like this gift or symbol that she's part of House Courbois. The subtext is, now with my finishing touch, now with this gift that I have given you, that is what completes you. We have so much to say about Aemonn this episode, and so I'm trying not to only look through negative point of view, but this does give such I've claimed you vibes. And that,
well, like we talked about a lot last episode, Aemonn does have his eye on the prize, which is Diem's hand in marriage so he can be king consort. He's simultaneously genuinely courting her, and while he's doing that, he's planting the seed of him being king consort, not only to Diem, but to the rest of Amarien, and as he does that, he's keeping the attention off Diem's actual love life, and he's pushing other hopeful men away, because that'd be a whole other headache for Diem.
I do have a quick question for you about this gift, because when Gareth sees Diem wearing this is at the ball, he will share a quick subtle nod with his son Aemonn. What do you think that nod means? Like, did father and son discuss this plan and then come up with it together, and Gareth's like, good job, you did it? Or did Gareth see it and say, like, like, I see what you did there, son. Like, I see you playing the political game. I don't know. Like, I was like,
It stood out to me too, and I'm thinking it's Gareth's way of being like, oh good, my son is at least making her look good and sending a message to the other houses. So I think the latter that you were saying there, because Gareth has zero faith in Diem, but he still doesn't want her to be challenged. Well, actually, he's giving mixed signals, because it seems that he would love for her to be challenged from last episode during the funeral, but when we get to the house receptions, he's furious at how her behavior will inevitably lead to a challenge.
I feel like that's just the show don't tell of someone with major anger issues like Gareth does. They are so flippy floppy, where it's like, if my anger is triggered, then I'm going to be like, down with you, you suck. I'm going to get you challenged as quickly as possible. But when he's in more like baseline mode, like he is here and maybe during the house receptions before she pisses him off, he is more, okay, like this is better for the house if she doesn't get challenged. So I think it's more of the showing of his anger issues.
Diem thinks this about the pendant. Quote, one way or another, it was a gilded threat. It remained to be seen who was its real target. How do you read this, Nicole? Because I've been scratching my head a little bit. Because it seems like the other potential real threat he's threatening is her. And I'm having a hard time seeing how that might be, because Aemonn's motives are entirely self-serving, yes, but he also genuinely wants to see Diem on the throne.
The only other way I could read it, because I agree, it's a thinker, it's a head scratcher. It's her being targeted by those in power, like Aemonn, Gareth, and Remus. It's almost like with this claim, she is going to be more easily manipulated by them, and that's how she would be the target.
Okay, I can vibe with that, yeah.
From this gift to Aemonn's attire, it is all a neon sign that this ball's expert intentions for the evening are clear. He is wanting the realm to know that he is standing by Diem's side, not as a loyal subject, but as her soon-to-be consort, not the consort option, the soon-to-be consort. He will be making comments during the reception, like about how she would be a wonderful mother because of her nurturing instincts, and no doubt she'll be a mother very soon, which leads to a whole slew of chatter from the crowd. Can I just say, Hell fucking no. But he doesn't just stop there, because it's Aemonn. He also kisses her shoulder and shoots her a warning, challenging stare that tells her, don't say anything back and to play nice. Even throughout the house receptions, he continues making frequent implications that they're basically mated. Okay, we get it. Territory planted, Aemonn. This plan of make myself seem as important to Diem as possible is only enhanced by Aemonn's outfit. The Archangel-inspired Aemonn is wearing a suit of white and gold jacquard, which is like a type of fabric with designs interwoven in the fabric itself. The suit is emblazoned with flame spurts of metallic beads, and he's got a feather-trimmed cape. Here's the deal. The first part of this outfit, I kind of love it. I'm vibing with it, especially with his stark blonde hair. I could see him looking just so beautiful. But then this cape is what sends me. It's sweeping to the floor in a wide, long train. And then lastly, he's wearing a wreath of gilded leaves threaded throughout his hair. It looks like a crown. Okay, Aemonn, we get it. You just can't wait to be king. Aemonn, Ball's expert, will later say that this is all because he's protecting Diem from being bombarded with marriage proposals and drooling suitors or other questions about her eligibility. And Diem will believe this was his main motive for Aemonn to dress like the peacock that he is. And maybe that's part of it. But this whole make sure the realm sees me and roots for me as king is highly likely that it is the number one priority. It's the number one priority in what I see Aemonn doing. It's like, for instance, if someone is acting as if, subtly and, maybe not so subtly, calling to attention to I don't know, them having a role in a TV series that they might not have. But if enough people see this behavior from this person and back up that person for the role, believing that they have it, there might be this pressure to make sure that that person fulfills the role as to not anger a community of people. As a hypothetical example. What I love about Diem is that she sees the kingly attire that Aemonn is wearing, and she's like, the audacity of this fucking balls expert, oh my god. And she's like, of course Aemonn would.
But here we get quite the interesting exchange between Aemonn and Diem, and it is most definitely not the first time we've seen him use this tactic on her. Because hey, it works, at least in the moment. Diem, of course, has to make a jab about how Aemonn is her escort only because he blackmailed Luther with it in exchange for his silence about Diem being engaged to a mortal. And to her surprise, Aemonn's like, wait, what are you talking about? What's more, he pushes back with if that's what you think, I don't want to be by your side. I will give Aemonn this. His mission revolves around Diem actually liking him and wanting him to be her king consort. He is happy to play up the role to convince her that he's the obvious choice, especially compared to Luther. But this is Aemonn, so we have to ask, is this statement about if that's what she thinks, then he won't stand by her, a lie?
Yes, I think this is absolutely emotional manipulation 101. If he says this, it is entirely for her to feel guilty that she would think such a thing about him. And then for him to be threatening to pull out of being her escort, it's like a way of her suddenly feeling like she needs to grasp onto him so she's not alone for the evening. Like it is
like as she does.
It is literally manipulation 101 that he is doing.
Oh my god, I bet you're right.
I'm gonna rip Aemonn apart this episode.
Aemonn goes on to deny this blackmail. From his POV, what good would it do for House Courbois and Diem's chances at keeping the crown if he revealed her secret about Henri? According to Aemonn, he's the last person who would share this information with anyone because he wants her, not Luther, to be the crown.
Here's the annoying part. I'm saying I'm gonna rip Aemonn a new one, and then I read this and I'm like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, he is so good because his reasoning for appearing like as the victim of Luther's manipulation, it's so reasonable.
But there we go. Luther.
Yeah.
Aemonn turns the blame right back on Luther, to absolutely no one's surprise, because this is the third time he's done this exact thing in the last 4 days. Luther is focused on controlling Diem and turning her against others, so she can only rely on him. It was Luther's idea for Diem to take Aemonn instead of Henri, because Luther doesn't want Diem to be with Henri. Luther knew Aemonn asked Diem to go to the ball with him, so he saw this as his opportunity to persuade Diem into accepting his offer and ditching Henri. All the while, meanwhile making Aemonn out to be the bad guy, when it's really Luther manipulating Diem. Picking up on our conversation about this exchange from last episode, Nicole and I definitely think this is more Aemonn bullshit, just like he pulled at the cousins' dinner where he and Ileana were working together to put a wedge between Luther and Diem. He blatantly lied to Diem at the dinner and poisoned her against Luther, and now it appears he's doing the same. This time doesn't work nearly as well as before with turning Diem against Luther, but it does plant a seed of doubt again, and it makes Diem think how it makes sense that Luther would do that. Dang, like, is Aemonn just the best actor? I want to fall into his trap too of being a nice guy deep down, but if he's really playing her like this, I think Aemonn is a master at mixing truth and lie, blurring the lines so that he can get away with his bullshit because he's that good at applying his venom to real situations and emotions and twisting them where he comes out as the good guy.
Well, and he's not done. Aemonn sees that he's getting a response out of her doubting Luther's true intentions, so he takes it a step further to not just Luther, but also her new-found family, the other people under this palace that she trusts. He says, quote, "Have you not noticed how quickly he, Luther, isolated you behind his closest friends? Do you think that Eleanor and Taryn are the only Courbois who desire to cozy up to the new queen?" Well, according to Aemonn, Luther made it known that the only way to get to the new queen was through Luther himself. Like, boo, you suck, Aemonn! Just these two sentences. Aemonn takes this newfound family that Diem has found solace and trust and a budding home in, and he makes it out to be manipulated by Luther and not the special bonds she's formed. And if there's anyone who's marking territory, it's Luther. He's basically peeing on your leg, Diem. Again, I don't agree with Aemonn in his tactics, but also he is so effective with what Aemonn wants, what Aemonn needs, making Luther seem like the villain and the one who is truly peeing on Diem's leg and marking territory. And Aemonn would be sad, but he would be fine, just fine, if Diem decided to leave his company for the evening. It does exactly what Aemonn wants. It ignites this like righteous indignation of Diem being like, I'm my own person and Luther Courbois can't hold me down. And Aemonn sees that and respects that. He would give me my space if needed. Like, I will give Diem this. I'm so proud of her for not immediately falling into this trap. Instead, she sees Aemonn for the danger that he is. Maybe not the manipulation part that he's pulling over her because he's so good at it. She just doesn't see it in front of her. And I'll be straight up honest, I wouldn't either if I was in her shoes.
I agree, because he's showing just enough of the manipulation. I'll say the innocent manipulation where he's showing, this is exactly what I want from you, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And he's also saying, but I want you to want me to have it too. But he's also manipulating her on a whole other emotional level too, that is not what she is paying attention to. Yeah,
exactly. Like, instead she's seeing this like suave allure that he has, and she's able to fall under the spell of his, like you were saying. And for that reason, she's not going to banish him as her escort for the evening, but her antenna is up. Yes. With
all this conversation around Aemonn, and we're definitely not done yet, we decided this exchange would be a great question for Penn. So let's hear what she has to say.
Did Aemonn really not know about the blackmail, or was he lying? Okay, so I think when it comes to Aemonn, it's safe to just always assume that there's a little bit of truth and a little bit of deception in every single thing that he says. I think that Aemonn, he's certainly not above lying outright, but I think Aemonn knows that it's much more powerful if there's a thread of truth in everything that he says. And also, Aemonn's perception of what's going on is very much colored by his own attitudes towards people and how he views them. So when he talks to Diem, for example, about Luther and Luther's intentions, I think Aemonn is being, in his mind, very honest about what Luther is trying to do and how he's using their cousins to do it. Whether that's actually what Luther is intending to do is up to you to decide. But I can't really say outright whether or not Aemonn, what he knows. But I will say that I think you should always be skeptical of anything Aemonn says, but you should also not dismiss it outright, because sometimes there's a little bit of accuracy in a lot of what he says.
All right, makes sense. Aemonn, what a character you've written, Pen. And I'll say it's very interesting that Aemonn thinks he is being honest about his warnings against Luther.
It makes sense when you think about his feelings towards Luther and especially his feelings towards Taryn and that whole little group that they have. I will say, I love Pen, and I see something behind her eyes that we don't know for Bern.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to know what that means.
And that's going to happen a whole lot more this episode, friends. We have a lot of phone of Pens this episode. She was such a trooper. Let's all give her a big round of applause at the end of this episode.
Seriously. Now, as much as I wish that Aemonn was the most complex character we were discussing this episode, that is simply not the case. Because as Diem and Aemonn are walking down the hallway, taking the servants' passages to avoid the mingling guests, they overhear a screaming voice say, quote, "Bring me Diem Bellator!" No shit. That's a voice that Diem would know anywhere. Henri is at the palace. Henri, it turns out, received Diem's letter telling him not to come to the ball because it wasn't safe, and he did not accept it.
I've just gone ahead and put on my Henri hat because, oh goodness. And I admit I was saving today's Squid Hat for next episode with, like the underground canal. But quite frankly, this will not be crazy enough for the Henri hat I will need for that one. So today, you get a squid in my daughter's little princess crown, okay? This also feels like a good time to plug in that we have a YouTube channel. We're almost at 50,000 subscribers. It's so exciting. And you can watch this whole thing there. I can't believe I'm doing this for my job. All right,
now,
please continue, Nicole.
Now, Lexi, we wondered when exactly Henri decided that no matter what, he was going to go to the palace for the Ascension Ball. And we were guessing it was right after he received the letter. We were even guessing 2 episodes ago if it was right when Diem said that there was a ball and he decided that no matter what, he was going to go. And we decided to reach out to Pen to get the full story of Henri deciding to ignore Diem's warning. And here's what she said.
When did Henri decide to go to the palace? Before or after Diem's letter to him? So in my head, this was after. He receives the note. He's absolutely furious about it because he feels like Diem is pushing him away, that she's abandoning him because she would rather cozy up to the Descended. He just feels so incredibly hurt and betrayed by this note. He turns to Vance because that's really the only person in his life right now that's still really trying to bond with him, except maybe a certain other healer. And Vance, eggs him on and encourages it and says she's betraying you. Like, she wants to push you out. She wants all the power for herself. She said she was going to help us, but she's not really helping us. She's doing her own thing, making friends with them. We need to take matters into our own hands. She can't shove you aside. We're going to show up there. You're her fiance. You have a right to be there. And so I think Vance kind of whips him up into a frenzy, and sweet Henri is very impressionable, very easily peer pressured, let's just say. And so I think Henri bought into that, and he's like, yeah, you're right. She is pushing me aside. And if I'm supposed to be her husband and king by her side, then I should be there. And so, yeah, we're going to go and we're going to show these Descended who's really in charge. And he sees this as an opportunity to finally get the mortals some power. I know a lot of people see Henri's actions in this whole context of Diem as selfish, but I really think that for Henri, it's a lot more about the mortals finally have access to power and to authority, and he wants to use it because he knows that these opportunities can disappear overnight. And he also kind of sees them slipping away as Diem is getting closer to the Descended. So I really think that his motives here are, I have this opportunity to help the mortals, and I'm gonna do it. And even if Diem doesn't want me to do it, I'm taking advantage while I can.
Can I just say one thing? Of course, it comes back to Vance! Let's fuck! And everything Pen said, we're seeing it all over Henri's face here. From just the beginning of this interaction, Henri is livid, not just at the guards for detaining him, but he's furious at Diem
for how she sent him the letter and betrayed him with that rejection.
And for how she commands the guards and they listen to her. It's like in Henry's eyes, this is Diem stepping into her role as queen and she's enjoying the power that she has over other people. He's also angry at her outfit and how utterly descended she looks. She's dripping in wealth and diamonds and pearls and oh my. And that in Henry's eyes is money that could have gone towards helping the mortals. It's everything he hates. And then he's also furious at how Diem is worried for Henry's safety and she's scared of losing him. Again, in his eyes, he sees her in a palace. She is the most powerful person in the entire realm. What on earth could she have lost? And what on earth could she be afraid of losing more? Again, I am going to do my best to put myself in Henry's shoes. Henry sees all of this from Diem and it spikes this question in his mind. Is she really on the mortal side or is she just as bad as all of the Descended? And again, this is hyper amplified from Vance. Diem might be saying that she's still herself. She's still Diem. But Henry only sees that Diem sent him away. She's wearing this outfit. She's commanding the guards. And therefore, she can only be one of them. And most of all, we can only imagine at what Vance has been whispering to Henry's ears. Vance is an extremist. He will view anyone who has any sympathy or alliance or is descended as the enemy. And he's been telling Henry that Diem's off in her big castle. She's with more food and wealth than they could ever even imagine. And because of those circumstances, she is the enemy. And Henry will even say, quote, "And you want nothing to do with me." I have no proof of this, but this is just my gut in what it's saying. I feel like that is not Henry speaking. I feel like that is a Vance line that he said to Henry and Henry accepted it as truth. And that is now Vance's truth coming out of Henry's mouth. So by the time Henry is here with the Guardians waiting outside, he is basically Gaston singing with the townsfolk ready to storm the palace and kill the beast.
Because as Henry says, he showed up to make these Descended learn how to bow down to their mortal king. Yes, through Diem's power as the queen, but I'll say even more so to teach these Descended who's boss, who's really in power here as the Guardians seize this opportunity to overtake the palace. I'm not going to lie, these Henry scenes are getting harder and harder to cover for so many reasons. And in this moment, I can't help but pity Henry. His reasons may be very questionable, but he showed up here as the king consort. He came dressed to the height of formality for mortals, with a clean-shaven face, shined boots, black breeches, and an ill-fitting doublet. But his attire is pathetic, even for Descended staff. Diem's realization that he probably borrowed this outfit to do his best to fit in with the Descended and present himself as their king consort, like that's just like a gut punch. We know Henry doesn't give a shit what the Descended think of him. But again, it's that stark difference of these two cultures and how superior the Descended have made themselves out to be in every which way. Imagining Henry compared to what Diem is wearing right now and how hard he had to work to look this presentable for mortal standards, it just hurts my heart every time I read this part.
Okay, I'm so glad you phrased it this way because whenever I read this section, I'm always in just like this heartache for Henry, who I'm simultaneously also wildly questioning his motives and behaviors. But then I could never put into words why I hurt so much for him and felt sad for him. And you're right here with it. It's like he tried to look a certain way. We're giving him that. This is not discrediting all the other things that he's doing.
Yeah, not associated with the so he can attack and kill a whole bunch of people.
No, this is not that. It's like he tried and it wasn't even near enough. That's
and Diem recognizes that too, and it's just so
sad.
Hard. Yeah.
But back to the reason that Henry is here, so we can shake off that. Because it's more than just wanting the room of powerful Descended to learn that they need to practice bowing down to their Squid King. He says, with some hesitancy, there is an army outside 200 strong of Guardians. Vance has called in the Guardians across Lumnos and also some from Fortos too, and they are ready to take the palace.
I think he's hesitant to share this information with Diem because he can't trust her.
Oh, absolutely. Well, he's looking at her as a dripping in diamonds Descended, and he's screaming about how she doesn't even want him anymore and all of this stuff. Like, he is thinking, how should I even tell her this? Like, is she going to stop us? Like,
she already with the armory attack too.
Yeah,
exactly. That was before the whole crown and everything like that. Yeah.
Can we just take a second and what if Henri hadn't told her that this was happening? That outside there was all of this going on? Like, the fact that he told her, thank God he did, but he almost didn't.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're right. See, like, going back to what Penn was saying about how impressionable Henri is, I bet he wasn't going to tell her. I bet Vance told him not to tell her, and then he kind of slipped up, and then she's like, wait, what? And he can't really lie to her like that. I mean, I know that he has in plenty of other situations, but with something like that, there is still that bond between them. Yes. And he couldn't do that because he's also impressioned by her. And so he did, and then that's how everything kind of fell apart. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, let's look at things from the Guardians' POV, because they know so little about how Descended magic works, or even training in general. They've really only seen Descended who are on patrol of the streets of Mortal City using weapons and minimal magic on the mortals, because Descended like to keep the true strength of their power hidden away from the mortals so they don't know too much, which that is a whole other can of worms that we're not going to open this episode, but that's not good either. So in the Guardians' mind, they have the height of Descended power in their minds. They have Descended weapons from their armory attack. Ergo, they believe that they are equals with the Descended in the palace.
Plus all of the bombs and those weapons that they have at their disposal here too. Exactly. Like, they are fighting with what they perceive as the way to fight. Yes. When the Descended have a whole other toolbox available to them. Yeah.
So with all of the powerful Descended in one place, it is only logical, at least in Vance's mind and therefore Henry's mind, to take out all of the Descended in one fell swoop. But Diem sees this for what it truly would become. She knows just the cusp of Descended magic, but it is enough for a couple of them to take out the entirety of this 200-strong Guardian army. There are people in this room who we will see how badly they want to crush the mortals. Evrim Burnett and House Honavs would relish in ending every single one of their lives out there.
And they are powerful enough to do so. Later on in the book, there will be a comment about how there were something like 10 very powerful Descended here who could have just, in the blink of an eye, gotten rid of all 200 of them. Well, and that's only a few of the Descended here, yeah.
But if the Guardians did manage to get a strike or two in, like Lexi was saying, they have bombs, and they have a lot at their disposal that they think they could easily get a surprise attack in. There's innocents and children in this room. Lily, Evany, Loris, just for starters, are all in this room right now. But the Guardians don't see those as lives lost in a travesty. Because, like we discussed at length last book with the Evrim House visit, a few innocents lost is nothing compared to what the mortals have suffered at the Descended's hands over centuries. It always goes back to, if the Descended did it, the Guardians, under Vance's lead, are ready to dish it back out in a concentrated fashion. And that starts with the attack on the palace.
And from the Guardians' perspective, this is a very rare opportunity for them. It might be centuries before the next time this many important Descended are all under one roof with their guard down. And the Guardians have an in, which is Diem. And Vance does not think she'll survive the challenging. So he's wanting to take advantage of their connection to the crown, which right now is obviously Henri supposed to be king consort. This is war, and the Guardians are prepared to launch this targeted attack and seize control of the palace. It could literally change the tides of this war between the Guardians and the Descended. Except, like we've been saying here, the Guardians have no idea what it truly means to overtake the palace, what with the magic they would be going up against. When Diem naturally refuses to go along with this mass murder, Henri brings up his argument from their last interaction in Spark. Time to pick a side, Diem. War is coming. War is here. And she can't have one foot on each side, especially if she wants him in her life. Diem says protecting the mortals means everything to her, so she better prove it by enabling this attack. This feels wildly unfair from Henri. You either support and allow killing all Descended, including children, or you are evil just like them. But I have my Henri hat on right now. We've talked about at length and will continue to do so. That is the black and white that Henri lives in.
There is this intense sense of urgency under Vance's rule within the Guardians right now. It's like we must act now. And like you're saying, it makes sense from them being like, we might never have an opportunity like this again. And while in his mind, this logically makes the most sense to attack while they're all together, while they have the opportunity, yada, yada, yada. I also wonder if he's wanting to make these big decisions, the armory attack, this attack, while Arlie is gone. Because if Arlie comes back and people feel like there's more happening happening under Vance's rule. The needle is moving forward more under Vance's rule. Maybe he'll stay as leader and Arlie will be out.
Yes, I think along those lines too. He thinks that she is a weak leader and he's trying to get the ball rolling here and to take charge when she clearly was not willing to do so, in his opinion. Diem can't pick a side though, because unlike Henry, she is living in the gray. Her version of us versus them is not the same as Henry's. Hers is the guilty versus the innocent, instead of mortal versus descended, which is the sides of this war. So as we're talking so much about this us versus them, Diem is living her reality and realizing it is not like that. It's much more about who these people are on the inside versus what they are, right? But then from Henry's point of view, because again, I am still wearing my hat, I can see how he is fed up with Diem because he thinks her insistence on no violence is naive and it's only protecting the descended, enabling them to continue oppressing as she tries to keep everybody happy. She's in a position right now where it's like she's kind of frozen, where it's like, I want to just help everybody. And with that mindset, it's almost like she's helping nobody. Henry sees her as simply saying she wants to protect the mortals, but she's not willing to go to these seemingly necessary lengths to actually protect them, despite promising him over and over and over again that the mortals are her number one priority. So from Henry's perspective, he is getting major mixed signals from Diem, and especially with her now being a descendant and the crown and the power that she has, he's going to think the worst of her.
It is a major understatement that Diem is between a rock and a hard place. She's telling Henry that he still matters to her. The mortals are still her priority. But she sees that he is too far gone, too far in his anger and rage to be listening to her right now. Like Lexi said, he's giving her an ultimatum. Let us attack and be on our side, or we attack anyway, and you're part of the damage. Her fiance, everyone. But Diem, I commend her so much because her heart is breaking for this new version of Henry. We cannot remind ourselves enough that these two have known each other their entire lives. 5 days ago, they confronted each other after the armory attack. That was only 5 days. Again, less than a week ago. That is not enough time to rewrite 20 years of being best friends and close with someone. But also, Diem has the lives of 200 mortals, and who knows how many descended, on her shoulders. She thinks on her feet, though. This is why I'm so proud of her. She nods and she droops her shoulders as if in defeat, and she presses herself into Henry, kissing him. Then she reaches into Henry's sheath and throws his blade away. Yes, girl! And tells the guards, take Henry to the dungeon. This move, it buys her time. Henry was going to go outside and tell the green light to the Guardians to go attack. But if they get no green light, they will just be waiting outside until Diem can figure out a solution to send them home. But the guards are instructed not to hurt Henry because if they do, they're dead. This is in no way a win for anyone, but this is as close to a win as we possibly could be in Diem's POV. And this move comes at a great cost. Henry just gave her the ultimatum, and she did not pick a side. But he views it as she absolutely did. She is sending a mortal to the dungeons.
And not just any mortal, but the mortal she said she loved just a few days ago, who she is supposed to be engaged to, who she has known and loved and trusted her whole life. This is the ultimate betrayal, and absolutely her picking a side in his perspective.
I was going to say, in Henry's eyes, Diem just said mortals deserve to be imprisoned and the descended will rule over them and dance on their suffering. Mwahaha. Like that is what he heard.
And the way Diem hopes that he will forgive her, that's her relying on the old Henry.
And because of this extremist way of thinking that Henry has, it is no surprise that Henry looks at her as he's being dragged towards the dungeons with no love in his eyes for his future wife. He has no trust that she's telling the truth or making the right decision. No hope for their future together. No attempt to even put himself in her shoes to understand her motives. No forgiveness, only betrayal.
It makes me think about how hurt he was when he received the letter from her saying not to come. And then Vance talked him up about how he needs to go anyway while simultaneously poisoning him against Diem. And here he is feeling that hurt and betrayal all over again. And it cements that Vance was right about Diem abandoning him for the descended.
Absolutely. I wonder if Diem believes Luther is doing what Vance is doing to him. Basically, Luther is whispering in Diem's ear. He's telling her all the reasons she should forgo the fight with the mortals. Now, I'll expand this beyond just Luther, because Aemonn walks in as well. So I'll just say the Descended. Basically, if the Descended are whispering in her ear, telling her all the reasons she should forgo the fight with the mortals and she should leave them and live with us, the Descended, and da-da-da-da, that's another reason I think he also is really struggling to trust her. My heart breaks for Diem right now. The only way to make Henri, quote unquote, happy would be to let the Guardians attack. But that would only make him happy until the next time the Guardians do something like this. It's like he's going to give her another ultimatum after ultimatum after ultimatum. Like, raise your hand.
Because she'll always have to prove herself to him.
Raise your hand if you've been in a relationship like this. I think all are.
God.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm so proud of her for breaking that cycle.
Yeah. We've talked so much about Henry's POV toward Diem, even before she got the crown, and how he's felt like she's the one going back on what they always agreed with. They hated the Descended together. And in Spark, Diem was trying to save some Descended. They were guards, after all, at an armory, and argue that there were innocent people among them. A few days ago, when Diem begged Henri to be her king, he challenged her on which side she was on, the Guardians or the Descended, and knowing she had no other option to hold on to Henri in her life, Diem agreed and sided with the Guardians. So here Henri is, believing himself to be the future king consort because that's what the queen promised him, dressed to the nines for a mortal and showing up to the palace, which he was originally invited to by the queen herself, then getting beat up by the guards and bloody to the point where Diem is going to have to wash it off of her, and he's blocked from getting any closer, and he's treated like absolute filth on the street. And now Diem, who again said she was on the Guardian side and is assuring Henri that all she wants to do is protect the mortals, she's sending him to the dungeons and calling off the whole attack. Diem is betraying Henri, plain and simple, as far as he's concerned. He is ready for this attack to take up the role as king consort and show these Descended just what that means in this new era. And Diem is pulling the rug out from under him, wielding her power to shut the Guardians down, when a few days ago, I cannot stress this enough, she promised the opposite. I will say this again, how I feel like these two only hear what they want to hear from the other. Henri very clearly heard Diem try to explain she is on thin ice as the new crown, and there is a process she has to adhere to in order to truly have power as that crown. But what he interprets is that right now is the best opportunity for the mortals to seize power, while she has power, while there's all these festivities that bring all these important Descended together under one roof. Henri also can't comprehend Diem's belief that there are innocent Descended. So it's like in this moment, she's showing her true colors as an evil Descended. She's turning her back on us, on the mortals, on Henri, on the Guardians, and becoming like them. I don't think that there's really any going back with that. I know we're going to explore that a lot more next episode, but yeah, there's nothing to understand with Diem sending him to the dungeons because Henri is committed to his chosen path. There is nothing for him to understand. There is nothing for him to even forgive because that is inconceivable to him. And this is a betrayal by the woman he used to love, and now that woman he knew might as well be dead. I'll be honest, the fact that Diem thinks they may still be engaged after this, I know we're going to get into her reasonings and all of that kind of stuff, but this is a whole new level of Delulu Diem. And I am now taking my hat off because I don't want to wear it anymore.
With Diem's world crumbling around her, hands begin to cocoon her into a hug. And this hug feels wrong. Turns out it's not her normal comforting presence. It's Ball's expert Aemonn. Yeah, because remember, we're still at a ball, friends. Who offers her words like, it'll be all right in the end, and don't fret. And my personal favorite, quote, what can I do, honey?
The funniest thing is, that is your husband's like signature line, but the way that this is used, I can absolutely see how furious you are about it.
He has not gained the right to call her honey. It was like 3 months until Brett even called me honey, and the first time I like kind of went like this, and I was like, oh wait, you're my partner. Okay, wait, this is okay. This is fine. And then I just grew to love it. Like, he was so close with asking her, how can I help? But the addition of honey makes me want to seethe. Luckily, the correct presence steps in. After Diem kicks out Aemonn, Luther hugs her, and all is right with the world. Literally, everything in Diem's body eases, and a wave of calm rushes through her. I repeat Lexi's earlier sentence. The fact that she still thinks she's engaged to Henri after feeling this feeling, oh my goodness. While on the surface, Luther might be saying similar things that Aemonn did, there's ever so slight this word change that makes the world of a difference. Instead of telling her, don't fret, Luther assures her she's not alone. Instead of saying, it'll be all right, Luther says, we will fix this. All of those promises, Diem's fears grow distant, and safe in his arms, she never wants to leave. Diem! Open your eyes!
Luther, you're the goodest good boy. Ew.
He would never call her honey before earning it.
I'm actually going to be talking about that a little bit later. The way that Diem dismisses Aemonn and openly admits she needs Luther is its own slap in the face to Aemonn. Just a little while ago, he was continuing his tactic of making Luther out to be the real villain. But these two are just too drawn to each other.
With 200 guardians still outside of the palace, it is time to come up with a as peaceful solution that they possibly can come up with that does not get anyone killed.
I remember reading this predicament for the first time and being like, well, how the hell are they going to find out a way for no one to get hurt?
Honestly. Luckily, Luther has an idea. And note, he will not try to convince her on violence is the only answer. Nope, he is totally free of judgment. He is only steadfast in his trust for Diem and the choices that she is wanting to point him towards. His idea, there's Umbros Descended here. They have the power of thought magic. The Umbros Descended could infiltrate the Guardians' heads and make it seem like it was their decision to turn around and let's go home. But in order to do that, Diem would need to use the foraging magic to release the Umbroses' magic in the realm of Lumnos.
Now, while Luther supports Diem's choice to go through with this plan, there is no doubt that there's a steep cost in giving the Umbros Descended their magic back. Because they won't just be able to use their mind magic on the mortals. They will also have free reign to read anyone's thoughts. And as we know, there are a lot of important people in attendance at this ball, most of whom are Lumnos Descended. There's a lot of secrets, including Luther and Diem's, for them to learn about and potentially use to their advantage. Absolutely use to their advantage, I should say. Think of all the family secrets, the business dealings, so much more that these Umbros now have fully at their disposal.
This is not a decision that can be made lightly. And I like that Luther says that, but Diem really feels it. She really does. Umbrose is already feared for their coveted knowledge that they have, and for their queen hoarding secrets like a kid hoards their bag of Halloween candy.
And by giving these Umbros Descended their ability back to read everyone's minds, Diem is about to expose her realm's most vulnerable secrets to the least trustworthy crown of all. That is bad. Not only that, but these Umbros Descended can control minds too. That is the exact intention, after all, with the mortals. So even though Luther will make them promise not to, they could make the Descended do whatever they want. And once again, no one else in the realms trust Umbrose. They keep their distance from these Descended for a very good reason, to prevent Umbrose from knowing their secrets and being able to control them. Diem is about to wipe out probably centuries of distance in one fell swoop.
But the only other options leave to blood on Diem's hands. So seeing this as the only option that does not lead to mortals and /or Descended being dead, even if it is a temporarily peaceful solution, Diem is willing to risk it.
I was honestly shocked that we didn't get the consequences of this during the ball, and even more surprised when it didn't blatantly come up when our crew visits Umbrose in the heat of the Everflame. Though we'll keep a close eye out for any mentions as we go through the deep dive, because something might have slipped through the cracks.
Only one problem. How the hell does Diem use foraging magic?
I'm so glad you asked. The foraging magic enforces the realm borders and prevents the Descended from being able to use their magic in other realms, with the crowns as an exception. So Diem has to lift the foraging magic's hold on the Umbros Descended, so they will be able to have access to their powers automatically lost when they crossed into the Lumnos border. But Friends, we all know that Diem sucks at using her magic. Luckily, this is different than needing to wield magic, though. It's a connection between the crown and the soil of their realm. It listens to the crown and obeys them. This is such cool magic, you all. But Diem's pessimistic that she'll be able to tap into this magic because she's never felt any kind of attachment to the earth. Not technically true. She unknowingly did when she had her big magical explosion with Luther, but anyway, she didn't know that. However, of course she's going to give it a try. So she reaches her spirit out into the darkness. And there it is. So tightly woven into a fabric of her soul that she hadn't even recognized it as something new. This is already so much a part of her that she didn't know that this was something new since she became the crown. Diem feels this energy of life with a current running through every living thing in Lumnos. Creatures, grass, terrain, people. Diem can feel in the forging magic how Lumnos is part of her, and she feels a fierce protection over it and its people, both mortal and descended. She can even feel the 16 individuals, 2 from each of the other 8 realms, who do not belong to this realm, where the forging magic is solidified around them like a hard shell. So Diem mentally taps on the Umbros Descended's encasement that currently prevents them from using their magic, to break them free and release their magic onto Lumnos soil. When she does this, the magic binding them shatters like broken glass. What a cool mental image this is. And their, quote, dark, hazy energy began to roll across the realm like an ominous fog. This is so fascinating. Oh my gosh, I love the different dimensions of magic. It's like the flipping upside down, but not really. I just love it. I won't lie though. I remember screaming at Diem through the pages for digging. I still sometimes do, for taking this risk because it's gotta come back to bite her, right? Yes, I applaud this solution that does not have bloodshed. That is wonderful, very good. And at the same time, talk about a lose-lose situation. Oh my God.
So Luther tells Diem to not worry. She has enough on her shoulders. He will take care of this burden for her. Again, reason why he is my #1 book boyfriend. What an acts of service, man. Oh my God. But we are very lucky that in the new hardcover version of Glow, we get some background as to what happens while Luther is taking care of business. So it is time for a POV change. Jumping ahead a little to Luther and one of the Umbros Descended representatives having just finished up with sending away the mortals.
So they made a deal. She helps Luther send the mortals away, and in exchange, she gets to rift through their minds, Luther's and the other Descended.
I love that we don't even see the Umbros Descended sending the Guardians away. Instead, we just see her completely unfazed by infiltrating 200 people's minds, and now just giddy that she basically has a buffet of information to choose from. Now, it might not have been taxing, but it was not quick. According to Luther, she spent her time rooting around every single Guardian's heads for any information that she will now get to go tell Yrcel, her queen. Putting yourself in the Guardian's shoes? This is bad. Sure, Yrcel doesn't really do much with it, but damn, I can only imagine if Vance knew that a Descended had done this. Like, I'm so glad he doesn't. Can you imagine what he would have done if he did?
Yeah, like, I will even say this. Lana will assume the Descended played a hand in it, and she'll even be like, oh, like, you made them all go away. But Diem will absolutely not elaborate.
No. Well, I do wonder, because we know that Ophiuchi attacks Umbrose next book. And we don't know if Vance was a part of that attack. But I don't know how he would have known that the Umbrose did this. But I could see that if he did know somehow, some way, then he would have been livid. And he would have had some extra gusto during that attack. Not that he really needs it.
That's interesting you say that. I think Umbrose and Miros, they were the 2 major targets. And I think that has to do with the trade that they have.
Yeah.
Because Miros is kind of like the outward facing, like the professional trade. And then Umbrose is like the black market. Yeah.
But the mortals are not the only people that the Umbros Descended are rooting through. After she goes through Luther's mind, learning everything she needs to know about Queen Diem and how Luther feels about her, oh, Yrcel's gonna have a field day with this information. This Umbros Descended turns to the ball. But Luther does have rules. No planting seeds in their head, no rooting through children's minds, and no going through Diem's. Well, she basically said, fuck that, to rules 1 and 2, although I don't think she planted any seeds in their heads.
I was going to say, I think it was mostly just rule 2 that she's did not do.
Yeah, she agrees to rule 1. Rule 2, she says basically fuck that. But she does agree also that she will not go through the queen's head, probably thinking that Simon already did, let's be real. But after all, she knows everything she needs to know just from rifling through Luther's mind.
It's kind of sad that she gets more information from rifling through Luther's mind than she would through Diem's mind.
It's not factually incorrect, though.
Exactly. And again, as much as we of course love Luther, he is keeping some secrets. I do find it interesting how Luther mentions being able to create a mental shield.
Yes!
Right? That this Umbros Descended makes him lower because it's part of the ordeal, and she's like, no, I get access in there. I'm sure we learn about that in Umbrose, but it's a little detail I didn't remember or didn't really think about. But what Diem will do with Simon is much more than a shield. She will literally throw him out of her mind, and I think that's with her special kind of power at work. But
oh, yeah.
I'm really curious about these mind shields here, because we see them in a lot of other fantasy books, but they're not quite relevant here because nobody else really uses their shields.
Yeah, right?
Like, by the way, I love how the Umbrose woman tells Luther he should tell Diem his secrets. I'm so glad we're all in agreement, right? But it also reminds me of what we will learn when we get to Umbrose, and how none of the Umbros Descended have secrets from each other. They live open and honest, and Diem will even be like, oh, that actually sounds kind of nice.
Yeah.
And here is this woman telling Luther he could benefit from some transparency. With his threat to Umbrose that she and her fellow representative, Simon, better be out of Lumnos by sunrise, Luther heads down to the dungeons to check on Henri and let him out unharmed. And Henry's first words are, "Did she send you to kill me?" That is what he thinks of Diem and what she is capable of. He is not comprehending that she is trying to protect people. He did not recognize her anguish and tears trying to help him. Henri thinks she's one of those evil descended now. Have we mentioned that enough this episode? We even get a description about Henry's dirt eyes, which is both a subtle hint to the unconscious bit of prejudice that Luther recognizes in himself that he admits here in this chapter, and more so, Luther's disgust with Henri for how he treats Diem.
We also get to see how Luther, in his Keeper of the Laws mode, talks about the mortals, specifically when he tells Henri that him and his, quote, mortal brethren have to stay in their place. Luther hates these words, but in order for him to keep the believable role as Keeper of the Laws, he must be this mortal-hating asshole. But Henri only sees these as the Descended, and honestly, he's even looping Diem into these words as well. And Henri is... We thought we saw Henri livid before. We now see Henri just like apoplectic with fury. And Luther snaps at this connection to Diem. He is seeing a man who is supposed to love this woman, call her a fucking traitor, which brings me to another series, because she didn't tell her betrothed to murder hundreds of people. So Luther tells Henri that Henri has no fucking idea what Diem risked tonight to save the Guardians' lives, you idot. And also, he goes on to say the Guardians were never this violent under Aureli's rule. Oh, but fuck. Luther just totally showed his hand. We've known that Luther has been watching the Guardians and therefore watching Aureli's movements and all of that kind of stuff for years. But the Guardians didn't. They had absolutely no idea that the Descended had any clue about their motives. They thought they were being sneaky. And by Luther just admitting that this rebel group wasn't this violent months ago, yeah, that shows just how long he's been watching them. So Henri asks the question that's on many of our minds, and many of us would wonder as well. If he has been so aware of the Guardians, why hasn't this Keeper of the Laws arrested them all already? And Luther does not answer them out loud. Internally, though, he shares his reasons. Partially because of Aureli's help with the half-mortal children, and this was almost a way of thanking her, repaying her. Partially for Blessed Mother Lumnos, because Luther believes she would have been mortified to see what the world has come to, and she would have loved helping them. This is also partially for Luther's own mother. The Guardians are fighting for people just like her after all. And, oh, this kills me, for himself. As a half-mortal, as much as he can't admit it out loud, there's part of him who views the Guardians and the mortals as a whole people as his people too. Oh,
Luther. Just as Luther is wondering if telling Diem his biggest secret, that he is a half-mortal himself, because remember, Diem doesn't know this yet, will change her feelings toward him, like in a lovey-dovey way. Henri cockblocks his thoughts almost as if he knows what Luther is thinking, where Henri says, "Did Diem tell you we're engaged?"
Boo!
I think he's partly testing to see how close Diem has gotten to this keeper of the laws. Marriage between mortals and descended, they're illegal. Diem's obviously exempt, but I think Henri is also challenging Luther, who is supposed to uphold these laws against such a union.
There is never a moment more stark in this book showing the differences between how Luther and Henri view Diem. And as I go through this, I do want to point out that this is how they are viewing her right now, in this moment in Glow. Henri is viewing Diem as just another descendant. We've talked about this endlessly. He's listening to all that Luther is saying and immediately thinking the worst of her, rather than looking at what a dangerous position she is, that Luther will literally slap him upside the face about verbally. Henri is not concerned for Diem's safety because, frankly, in his eyes, she has no reason to be unsafe. She is the most powerful person in the realm and therefore cannot be overruled. Henri knows about the challenging, but maybe he's forgetting what a dangerous position she's in, and he's just, in his anger, believing that Diem has the crown, ergo, she is the ruler from day one. Henri is looking at everything through the lens of, but the mortals have it worse! And then it finally clicks for him. He asks Luther, oh my god, can't she just kill them? This is for the people who are standing up against Diem. Last book, we talked all about how Henri and Diem were in love with the old versions of themselves. But this line right here shows that, I'm going to speak directly to Henri because it's him saying this line, saying that he does not even know her anymore.
Well, and then the way that Luther challenges Henri on this notion. Yeah. He's like, do you really think being the bloodiest crown in history is what Diem wants for herself? And Henri actually does know the answer to this because he's been fighting with Diem about it for months. And he kind of frowns a little bit, where it's like, he doesn't say it, but he's like, in his mind, you know that he's like, yeah, that's not what she would want at all. It doesn't change what he expects of her, but it checks him a little to actually consider her in all of this. I think that is the first time he actually did a little bit because Luther was pushing back on him so much.
Well, let's talk about Luther for a second. How does he view Diem in this moment, and specifically Diem in relation to Henri? Luther is seeing this man doing his damnedest to drive a wedge between himself and his betrothed. And after all, Luther's a little happy to let Henri do it to himself, to let Henri show Diem who he truly is, to let Diem then break up with Henri, and then let Luther insert himself as the much better option. After all, he sees Diem for the incredible woman that she is. It breaks his heart to see her beg literally for this asshole to love her. And especially Luther still views Henri's wanting to be king as a selfish motive. Luther knows that Diem deserves someone to love her, to stand by her side, to serve her, and to be there to support her as queen. After all, that is literally what Luther is doing while Henri is not. But at the end of the day, that path, Diem and Henri breaking up, would hurt Diem and break her heart. And that's the last thing.
I think she'd get over it, but you know.
I think so too. But Luther doesn't want that for his queen. It would kill him to see her go through that kind of heartache. So instead, he gives Henri some advice. Be the person Diem needs. Love her, stand by her side, serve her. I am going to give Luther this. Way to be the bigger person. Wow, that is amazing. That is wild. Now, I say that, and I'm going to try to get through this next part without swearing, I promise. Because this whole be the person Diem needs, love her, stand by her side, serve her, Henri doesn't like the sound of that. He says, quote, serve her? She is your queen. She is my friend. You kneel to her because you'll never be her equal. I stand beside her because I already am. Okay, in Henri's eyes, Diem is still his friend who he climbed trees with when they were young. She is the woman he saw starting a family with, and she would quit her job as a result and all that kind of stuff.
And kind of serve him. I don't mean that. I don't think it's
in a traditional way.
Exactly. It's not like a conscious, like, oh, I'm going to make her my wife and she's going to serve me. I don't know. But it's very much, Henri is so rooted in tradition.
Well, he saw them having that traditional life together. That was the only path he saw for them.
And
that did not include her being queen, where he would have to kneel and serve to her. And I cannot believe Henry is still alive after saying this to Luther.
Again, like, I see his person. It actually is very much in line with his character.
It is.
And
I'm
how
not saying
he
it's
views
not.
Diem. Yeah.
But
I will say, I fucking love Luther's comeback to this, though. And friends, I know we're kind of going a little bit beat by this because I know so many of you might not have access to this bonus chapter, so I hope that you're getting all the goodies out of this here. Quote, every time I look at her side, you're nowhere to be found.
Woo!
Go, Luther!
Yeah, Luther!
And guess what? Teller is going to say something similar to Diem later on. And while, yes, it is not safe for Henry to be by Diem's side right now, it is the fact that he doesn't even consider himself on her side. He is villainizing her and at this point, using her for the Guardian's cause. Like Luther points out, Henry's not even trying to be worthy of Diem, but it goes back to Henry refusing to serve Diem. Why would he have to prove himself worthy to someone he's known and loved all his life? I say loved, that is definitely past tense now, but you all know what I mean.
Well, I think it is loved, especially as we go into which version of Diem does he think he loves. I think he loved, or maybe he still thinks he loves, the version of Diem that was a guardian. And that was just a blip of their time together. Now, as Luther is walking Henry out, Henry kind of turns on Luther and accuses him of having feelings for Diem. And I do wonder what is going through Henry's head in this moment. Is it jealousy that there's this incredibly handsome man who's inserting himself at Diem's side? He's a Descended.
He's the keeper of the laws.
He's a keeper of the laws. And I think that if anything, that just wedges more distrust that he has with Diem. And I think that's why we're going to see him make some very, very questionable decisions next episode, because he believes that Diem has already cast him aside, chosen another person. I think this is when he goes to Lana.
I was just going to say, he's doing the same fucking thing.
Exactly. Well, I don't think he and Lana have acted on anything. Maybe this is a question for Penn. I don't think he and Lana have acted on anything until after the ball. Because
I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree because, again, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves right here. But at the funeral, the interaction with Lana is very interesting. And
It's
that is
very,
where
"I've
I
seen you
think that
naked."
I think that she and him are emotionally in a relationship, but they might not have acted on it yet. And then, yeah. Anyway.
Absolutely. But I love that Luther does not say, like, oh, I don't have feelings for her. He does. He admits, sort of. And so he doesn't deny it. I'll say it that way, which is basically confirming it. And I think that that's Luther's little bit of way of saying, step it the fuck up, dude, or else I'm going to go get her. Love you, Luther.
But guess what, everybody? We can't forget there's still a ball in our honor to attend, and we haven't even gotten there yet. Go away, Henry.
Go away, Henry. We don't want you.
Before the grand entrance, Aemonn helps Diem get washed up from Henry's blood, and she's terrified that he is now seeing the real her, the vulnerable and broken girl, instead of the confident, savage queen. I am going to be on major Aemonn watch from here on out to see how he may use that to his advantage, because she wholeheartedly believes that he will, but she's like, I can't worry about that right now. I just can't imagine being this shaken up, sending my fiance to the dungeons for his safety while knowing that what we had is probably broken, working on a plan to stop an attack on the ball, and revealing her realm secrets to Umbrose, and then having to put on a smile and go out there for a ball in your honor. Damn, you are so much stronger than me.
I'm repeating what I said last episode. I would have wanted a bath, a bottle of wine. I would have cried with Chinese food in my hands.
She feels so broken inside, but she knows she has to play the part of a bright, shiny object tonight. Before the grand entrance, though, Aemonn uses his magic to create twinkling stars woven into their hair and clothing. So now there is pale blue lighting dancing around the two of them. He says he can't let a Corbois queen walk in unadorned. In other words, can't let her not put magic on display. Once again, elevating her to be seen as the Luminous queen that she is. While at the same time, it's entirely for his own benefit too. Her success equals his success. So as the heir to the crown, Her Royal Majesty Queen Corbois, the unchallenged queen of Luminous, realm of light and shadows. By the way, that announcement really rubbed in that she isn't fully queen yet. I don't know who announced that. It did not say, but my goodness.
I bet you anything Gareth
I was thinking the same thing. as she makes her debut, Aemonn reminds her to rise from the ashes and burn bright once more. Honestly, a very applicable statement and a vote of confidence Diem needs right now. Before we dive into the events of the ball, can we just take a moment to appreciate this setting and how Luminos magic is used? You all know how much I love it when magic is just on display like this. The massive hall matches the palace's exterior, with every wall covered in shadowy vines and speckled with glittering flowers. The vaulted ceiling disappears beneath a cloud of shadows, with glowing orbs bobbing as if floating in a sea of midnight. Then we have the ballroom that is crafted to be like the night sky. And then here we have Diem and Aemonn, who are like the full moon, the bright light in the shadowy depths.
Did you just say full moon? Did you just say full moon?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. Yes, I did.
I was on moon watch for this episode. Do I think it means anything? I have no idea, but the moon is coming back. It's coming back into our story. First things first, it is time to meet the realms. Every realm has brought 2 representatives to meet the new queen and give Diem a gift from their ruler. Pause though, because as the foreign descended were arriving to the ball, Diem was watching over them, and Sarai was noticeably agitated. Why? Why do you think she was agitated? Diem even notes how they can't hurt her because of the forging magic and all that kind of stuff holding down their magic. So it's odd that Sarai would have such a reaction. So why do you think it is?
I wondered the same thing. It especially seems suspicious that this mention of Sarai's agitation is right after the observation about the Umbros Descended. Even if Sarai's agitation is caused by all of the foreign realms, it would be because Sarai is reading their intentions. Like Sarai picks up on their mistrust of the new queen, or their intentions to feel her out for their own gains, or Simon in general. Or maybe Sarai has an innate need to protect Diem, and no matter what, there are always tensions between those realms. So Sarai is like extra protective in that nature. But we will definitely be talking about those off vibes from Umbros a little later on, and we should remember this about Sarai.
Yes, we should. After Diem talks to the members of House Courbois to get their, little we're the most important house out of the way, it is time for the 8, really 7, representatives to step in. But even the order of these events are quite political. On the surface, greeting the representatives right after the most important house, it appears to be a gesture of good diplomacy. It's so early in the evening, all this kind of stuff. The higher up the line you are, the more important you are. But in reality, it's a not so subtle encouragement for these people to get the fuck out as soon as possible rather than spend another night in Luminos, which is beneficial to both. The representatives get to get back to their terre-mère and therefore their magic much sooner. And Luminos doesn't have to worry about the other outsiders in the realm, except for Umbros, it seems. More on this in a moment.
In one of Pen's videos for this episode's Phone a Pen, she dropped a teaser about these Ascension gifts that we're about to go through. So real quick, let's pull that clip so we can keep it top of mind as we discuss each foreign realm's gift to Diem.
Is there anything else you should know about them? At least one of them will become very important in Burn. Let's just say that.
Okay, let's get into this. First up, we have Fortos, which is Luminos' southern neighbor. 2 army warriors are this realm's representatives, which I just love the little detail that they remind Diem of old grumpy friends because she grew up among her father's mortal army friends with similar brash mannerisms. They gift Diem a finely made blade that looks like Breck's handiwork. We know who Breck is! Remember that Breck is a Fortos mortal we met back in Spark, who is a blacksmith in the Yamarian army, a member of the Guardians, and a friend of Henri's. He even gave Diem a Fortosian steel weapon in exchange for a favor he has yet to cash in. Can't forget about that. And when Diem will thank the King of Fortos for this gift when they're on Kareel at the end of Glow, he will become very suspicious of her connection with Breck, because Breck will disappear a few weeks after this ball with a very important stash of weapons, leading the King of Fortos to, rightly, believe he's with the Guardians.
Next is the 2 lavender-eyed Montios representatives who refuse to speak even a single word to anyone at the party. We will learn in Heat of the Everflame when the Umbros Descended gets their magic, they will take a vow of silence, either from outsiders or in totality. We will learn that this is the wish of Blessed Mother Montios, who made the mountains her home because she believed being isolated and spending time in silence enhances the mind and opens them to higher truths. We will see this, how they seek virtue in all things, and they connect best to that virtuous life by silence. The Umbros Descended will give Diem a thick fur-lined cloak that always keeps the wearer warm. This would sure be helpful when we're on the run in Montios. In the last third of Heat of the Everflame, after a failed attempt to go back to Lumnos with Arlie in tow, Luther tells Diem, really Sarai, to fly to Montios, because he's got a hunch that Diem really needs to go there, and that she's the queen of there too. It's super handy that on this spontaneous adventure, Luther also just so happens to have brought this exact cloak with them. After all, that hunch really working overtime.
I wonder if this fur coat will be used again if they venture to Montios and the Forgotten Lands and burn. Next, we have the green-eyed Umbros representatives with their gift. It is an emerald-hued potion they say can cure any illness, except for curses sent directly from the gods. This gift also makes plenty of sense coming from Umbros, which is known among the mortal healers for its rare medicinal plants. And yes, we will see this gift come back into our story in Heat of the Everflame too. Luther is about to die from his godstone wound upon returning to Lumnos, and Diem is desperate to save him. She'll ask Remus if Umbros has a cure for Godstone toxin, and he doubts it because Umbros and Sophos have been researching a cure for centuries, and a cure would give a realm leverage over any of the other crowns because of its priceless value, so they probably wouldn't want to keep that information secret. Diem will give this vial of potion to Luther after the compass tells her she's just found what her heart desires most. It'll be her last hope to heal him from his fatal Godstone wound. But really, as Diem ensures he gets every last drop of this potion, her blood from her earlier cut will get into his system. And that will be what actually cures him. So I'm under the impression this Umbros gift can't heal Godstone because it falls under the exception of curse from the gods. The origins of Godstone are still a mystery, though we'll learn it can only be made by the kindred. So I'm thinking it's a substance made through the kindred from their deities. We know how each descendant's godhood is directly connected to the kindred's gods, so it makes me think Godstone is also a direct connection to them, making it a curse they created for whatever reason. So quick pause here, because Diem wants to taunt these two Umbros representatives about why they didn't offer such a gift to the late King Ulthar as he slowly died over months. First of all, we can gather that each of the realms are very protective of what's theirs. Coronation gifts are a rare occasion where they share their magical devices with other realms. So I could see it just being part of the Descended culture not to consider giving this valuable any illness healing potion to Ulthar. Not their problem kind of situation. I think that the only exemption for something like this would be the Fortosian healers, right? Or what if this is a bit of foreshadowing that Ulthar's illness was brought on by the kindred because they knew it was time for the Daughter of the Forgotten to emerge into power. This potion can't cure curses sent directly from the gods, which could be a nod to the fact that this wouldn't have been able to cure Ulthar even if he did take it, because it is a curse from the gods.
My mind was going in an entirely different direction, but I really like what you're saying. So my mind was thinking, because we know the Umbros queen is working with the Guardians, sort of-ish. And I wondered if she didn't want Ulthar, who was, very much instilling the progeny laws, she didn't want him to be healed. So I wondered, because she didn't agree with Ulthar's stance, she didn't want him to be cured, and therefore she wanted him to die so Luther could take over. Now, there's a huge asterisk here, because she would have had to have known about Luther's background and dealings, probably from orally. So I don't think that's the case. Honestly, I like your version a hell of a lot better. Next, we have the yellowed-eyed representatives who rode in on fucking tigers like badasses. I love that Diem is almost disappointed to see these Fangirls Descended because they're human, and after hearing that the Fangirls Descended can have animal characteristics or even shift into animals. Now, these are mortal rumors, but is this a showing of how out of touch mortals are with Descended magic? Because, Descended hide it from them, the reasons we talked about earlier. Or is this a possibility that we will see? And please, oh please, let it be the latter, because maybe that's how Diem gets off the island. Maybe she turns into a fish and swims away.
I'm so sorry, but I'm pretty sure this is just a mortal rumor, because
Fine.
Fangirls magic is control and/or communication with animals. But I still just wanted, just keep swimming, da, da, da. And also, Diem can't use her magic on the island.
Fine. I'm sorry. Anyway, the Umbros Descended give Diem 2 tiny, cute, furry animals that are a delicacy for Gryverns, which Diem has no interest in giving these animals to Sarai. Sorry, girl. The Umbros Crown will later lament about how she should have killed and skinned them first so they would be less cute and fuzzy. After all, it's a circle of life.
I really want to go to Faunos.
I know, right?
I don't know what that says about me, but like I want to go there so badly.
I do too. But I also feel like because it's like very jungle-esque, there'd be like these like giant snakes, and I don't know if my heart can take that.
Probably, but still, all the other. I want to ride a tiger.
I want to ride a tiger.
Next up, we have our gift from Igneos, our crown bestie. Ha! JK, you suck, Igneos King. But that's not who's here from the desert realm. These orange-eyed Igneos Descended women have red skin and wear linen robes, and they rode in on camels. I just love the way that these creatures and their realms I just love it all so much. And they've brought a white spider silk scarf that is so strong it cannot be penetrated, heyo, by any metal weapon, no matter how sharp or how big your sword is there, Luther. Soon after Andre will be killed, Diem will wrap Teller in the scarf to protect all his major organs as one more way to keep him safe. And this scarf is not mentioned in Heat or in the first 3 preview chapters of Burn where Teller is with Luther. So my question is, who's got the spider scarf now? Because I assume it's still just back in Lumnos from when Teller had it at the end here in Glow.
I'm assuming it's just chilling in Lumnos. I worry that we're gonna like stab Aemonn or something and then he's gonna be like, Jacques! Like, and he's got it.
Well, I do hope it'll be put to use for our beloved characters in this war. Maybe it'll save someone like Teller from getting killed.
Well, I could also see Eleanor having it, and maybe she's wearing it, and she gets to have her. Just kidding. You tried to stab me, Remus. Sucker. Next up, we've got the Umbros Descended. It's from 2 aqua-eyed sailors who have dirty mouths. They give her a compass that points to whatever your heart desired most. Fantasy compass! Is that you? If you have listened to Fantasy Fangirls covering a different series, you know how much I love a fantasy compass.
Do you all know how hard it was to not say any Kindred's Curse Saga spoilers during that deep dive coverage? Like, finally, the compass is in our story and we can talk about it freely.
Thank God. In this moment, as Diem gives the compass a brief glance, she sees that it is pointing to the back of the palace. She doesn't know if that means it's her home on the marsh it's pointing to, or Mortal City, or the island, because that's where she's going to be coordinated. Now, it is the same place that later it will point to. It's her childhood home, because that's where she felt safety. She felt security. She had a family who was alive and brought her all kinds of good feelings. And it was the representation of when things were easy or uncomplicated. So it could be pointing to that just preemptively from when it does that later. Or it could be pointing to Luther in the dungeons with Henri, and apparently that's where it's just like floors below. So yeah, I also thought it was pointing to Luther, but I also kind of like the idea that it's pointing to Orally. But I don't think that's what her heart wants most right now. Well, I just mentioned one of the ways the compass will be used later on this book with Diem and when her father dies and all of that. It's so sad. But that's not the last time we see this fantasy compass. In Heat of the Everflame, after we team up with Luther and co., we learn that Luther's been practically clutching it like it's a lifeline, that as long as he has it, he can find Diem.
He has this emotional support compass.
He's emotional.
Like how someone else in a series has an emotional support dagger, he's got his emotional support compass.
That is until the first 3 chapters of Burn, link in the show notes to read those, where Luther is also holding this compass, but instead of pointing to Diem, it is just spinning around and around and around and around and around, assuming that is due to the magic on Corel. It also could be because Diem was stabbed.
That's what I assume too. So I'm wondering if Diem will find a way to get off the island, and that's how Luther will immediately know, because the compass will point to her again.
Like, can you just picture this so vividly? Like, it's spinning, and then just like
yes,
just locks.
And exactly, and like he looks down and it's pointing in that direction, and the hope that it gives him. Oh my goodness. I'm also brainstorming how the compass might help these characters in ways that aren't pointing to each other, like Luther pointing to Diem and showing that she's actually okay and maybe that she's off the island. Could it nudge Diem in the right direction to reveal some very important information? Kind of like how it did when Luther was about to die and she was so desperate for a cure, and it pointed in the direction of the potion, but I don't think it was actually the potion like we were saying earlier. It was that the compass fate and destiny all knew that is what she needed to do to then get her blood into Luther there. Could this compass help her discover something about herself or the kindred or how to defeat her father? I'm just going to keep this compass in the back of my mind, especially as we go through Heat and crank up the theory talks.
I absolutely see it being something for Ophiuchi. I could also see it being something towards pointing Diem to take the Rosebane.
Yes.
With
or the
Yrcel
key
says.
that she has from Yrcel.
Yes!
And like she needs this information, and then the compass points to the key, and then with the key, then she will be able to go into the library, and it's like, oh yeah, I do have this key. This
I'll
very
go ahead
important
and say
thing.
it. If I got to have one of these Coronations gifts, I think the compass would be my immediate go-to. Not because I love a fantasy compass, but also just because of what you're saying
I would
here.
say yes, because I think that it would help me find my glasses and my phone a lot, because I always lose everything.
And you were talking about getting 2 phones.
I was not. Other people
That's
were.
true. Thank God.
I know myself too well.
Next up, one person approaches with black onyx eyes and a neatly cut hair with a groomed goatee. Of course he's got a goatee. Simultaneously, Diem's thoughts go hazy as if slithering tentacles are writhing around in her mind and going, whoa. To quote Eleanor, that guy was creepy, but also kind of hot.
Nicole, this is all your fault. I will never think of the word tentacles the same way after our spice challenge. Friends, in our fan club for our monthly live Q&A, Nicole and I did a spicy reading, and we tried to break each other, and Nicole brought out tentacle ass play. And I didn't break.
No, you did with that one. It was the second one. It was the tentacle dildo that you didn't break.
Oh, excuse me. But in all seriousness,
tentacles are very serious, Lexi.
Simon is working his Umbrose magic here on Diem.
Well, as we've been saying, welcome to the chat, the one and only tentacle goateer Simon. One of the creepiest fucks Umbros Descended, who is the right hand of the Queen Yrcel. Because Diem released the Umbros magic, Simon is exercising his use of that tentacle power. Which, pause, because we have to reiterate how fucking huge this is. Simon and his cohort, who's off assisting Luther, have access to read every single person's mind in this room. We talked about that earlier. But the way that Simon is teasing about how he's learned so much, it brought up the question for us. What did they learn here in this ballroom? Because they can read the minds of the 20 houses. Remus and Gareth, Aemonn, everyone. This is huge. And also all of the other realms and their representatives. So is this going to come into play, especially around Diem's father's murderer? And you know what? We decided to ask Penn. So here's what she said they learned at the Ascension Ball.
What did the Umbros Descended learn at the Ascension Ball? That is an interesting question, isn't it? A lot of things. Whether we will see them come back in the story remains to be seen. I think if you put yourself in the shoes of the Umbros Descended, the power of Umbrose is really in their markets, the black market and the taxes they levy on these things and how much runs through their port. So probably a lot of the things they're focused most on are going to be trade related, economics, finding what the houses of Lumnos are buying from other realms or what they want to buy, the terms that they're trading on so that maybe Umbrose can offer them better terms and get in those deals. That really is the source of their power with other realms. So I think that's probably what they're most focused on, which is probably pretty boring to us, but very interesting to them. When it comes to Diem, they have agreed not to read her mind, but there are certainly other people at this ball who know many of her secrets. And there are also people at this ball, say, for example, Luther, who have many secrets of their own. And as the Umbros Descended are trying to figure out how to manage this new crown and how to keep her in her place, they might find a lot of those secrets particularly useful. In particular, I don't know, maybe who she cares about or who might care about her, and certain details they could use to keep those people under their control. I don't know. We'll find out.
While everyone else may not know that there's a slimy sleazeball tentacle man reaching into their head, which I guess Diem can only feel because she's special, or because she's the crown, or because she's the one who released her magic, or honestly because Simon is making a spectacle out of it. But Diem does not enjoy this dude being in her head. He's sending her images of him and Diem throne fucking while everyone else jerks off to them. Listen, I know that Diem likes exhibitionism, but I think this is a little bit of a jump for our girl. 2, using mind control to have her trail her fingers up and down her body to match his own movements. Listen, I know Simon has had every pleasure known to man. He's used to the Umbrose orgies on the reg. But bro, buy a girl dinner first. My God.
It's like, in his perspective, he's fucking with her, but oh my God, Simon, you are disgusting. L for you, Simon. You know what? You can be smiting L. She did not give you consent for this, so smite L. Smiting.
Smiting! Smite! Yes. Luckily, Diem is taking the smiting into her own hands. And welcome back to the chat, Fight Voice. We've missed you. Diem happily surrenders to this voice, and an icy fire bursts through her defenses, and her whole body glows in a silvery light.
Quick reminder that everyone in this hall can see this right now. It's the same thing that happened at the funeral. It's not normal for a Umbros Descended, but because she can't control her magic, no one even cares. Like, nobody even thinks that this is something weird. It's just like John Honavs will say, he's like, oh, just like party tricks kind of thing. But this is not Umbros Descended magic here.
No, which I'll get to in a moment, because through this cresting wave of silver light exploding out of Diem, it kicks Simon out of her mind, and his expression is very unsettled. So first and foremost, let's talk about this silvery light, because this is absolutely Omno's power at play. We know that all realms have 2 powers. So is the power of all the realms one power of Omno's, and this silvery light / fire is the other one, which, by the way, this icy fire, I'm taking that to be the silver fire.
I agree. Yeah.
Or are these 2 powers, the silvery light and fire, and then the ability to absorb others' magic, and then the Omnos element of it all, the allness of it all, is just a 3rd power?
So because Omnos means all, I wonder if the silver light and fire and absorbing magic and these other unique magical abilities Diem has is kindred magic, like general kindred magic. So someone on our Discord named Nancy shared a cool theory, which is that there isn't a single or paired kind of Omnos magic. We know from Montios's journal that Omnos was not on board with the forging spell that bound the kindred siblings' magics to their realms. So Nancy wonders if Omnos somehow held back from the spell, which made him keep all the magic he had, rather than it being contained like it is for his siblings tied to the forging spell. This could mean that originally the kindred could use all magics, but perhaps some were specialities, and that's what they kept as their own realm magic. On the other hand, Omnos does again mean all, so he could have uniquely been able to wield all forms of magic. So I love this that Nancy brought up here, and I'm going to expand on the idea and bring up the fact that the mortals of Aemonn renamed the kindred in their own language. So they named them for their types of magic or traits, which for us readers, the root is Latin. So if the mortals named Omnos all, because Omnos was the only known kindred without a specific type of magic, the only one with all of them, whether because of the forging spell or the magic they were all known for. And these other powers, like absorbing other magic and glowing silver, is possible only for a direct offspring of Omnos, because that's kindred magic that is not contained and passed down to the descendant in the realm like all of the other ones. These special kindred powers are some of what they gave up for the forging spell, I think, and for them to no longer be immortal. And Omnos is the only one who did not participate, so he kept his old powers, and that's why he was so dangerous. Or he somehow got his siblings' powers, as Doriel says in Heat, quote, he would have lived forever. And if he was immune to magic and could also steal their magic, though this does seem to be an assumption on Doriel's part, based on what Diem's doing with collecting the crown. So I don't think we can take that as fact for what Omnos was capable of back then. Whew, sorry, that totally went off the rails. Last thing I will say about Diem pushing Simon out of her mind is that while other Descended can shield, like we were talking about earlier, this is unheard of magic. She does not have her Umbrose magic yet. That'll come in Heat when she crosses the border into the realm for the first time. So I'm guessing Diem pushing Simon out is specifically kindred magic, where it's as if her magic can repel other magic, kind of like the opposite of how she can absorb magic.
There are days where I am just in awe of you, big sister, and today is truly one of them. The fact that you just pulled that out of your brain is
Well, hold on. I did have Nancy from Discord, too.
That's true.
I appreciate
you and Nancy. The fact that you and Nancy had that, wow, I am blown away. My God. Now, whatever this power is coming from, whether it's Kindred or Omnos, one thing is for certain, Simon is like, what the fuck? He has not been kicked out of someone's mind ever. Not in this way. Maybe other centuries when they shield against him, but they don't really.
Yeah, like, and that's kind of like a rule that they have, is that they don't shield. Yeah.
But the queen, yes, but they just don't go into her mind. Period.
They don't. Yeah, you die if you do that.
You don't do that. So this is a thing he's so not used to, and it's kind of, at least in my opinion, it's a little bit like, good for you. I hope you get used to this feeling, Simon. He does even try to get into Diem's mind again, and is shit out of luck. Okay, Simon, you did your show and tell. It's time for you to go.
This is the moment in the story where it is revealed that the Umbros queen, Yourcell, was the old woman who had that mysterious interaction with Diem in chapter 1 of Spark. Man, it feels like we just did that episode yesterday.
I know.
She told Diem to stop taking that cursed flame root, that her real father knows who she is and is waiting for her. And she shared this prophecy that we picked apart in our very first episode of the series Deep Dive. Quote, when forgotten blood on Hearthstone falls, then shall the chains be broke. Life for life, old debt requires, or eternal be his yoke. What's more, Simon teases that these two queens have so much to discuss and that she looks forward to Diem's coronation. Oh boy, where do I begin here? First of all, Diem's mind is spiraling with the knowledge that it was the Umbros Queen who she spoke with in the alley. That strange interaction catapulted the rest of our entire story. Yourcell was the first one to encourage Diem to stop taking the flame root, which led to her magical powers showing up, since they were no longer suppressed. And while Diem is wondering how the Umbros Queen knew about her mother's secrets when no one else is supposed to, we do know that answer. Yourcell has read Aurelie's mind from when she's been in Umbrose, and for her own reasons, Yourcell has not stopped Aurelie's sneaky secrets actions. But that does not explain how Yourcell knows Ophiuchi is still alive. She was one of the crowns who put Ophiuchi in his prison in the first place, so she already knew about that and where he was. But she should not have been able to use her powers on the island to, do a little check-in to see if he was still around and what he was thinking about with the daughter and all of that. So how does she know Diem's father knows about her and that he is still alive and that he's waiting for her?
That sounds like a great phone to pen for Heat of the Everflame. If she'll answer.
If she'll answer. Okay, now moving on to what Simon says about how Yourcell is looking forward to Diem's coronation. If she survives the challenging, everybody but Diem's inner circle always feels the need to include that asterisk. We know that Yourcell is going to expect the Heartstone to break when Diem's blood touches it. She knows what's about to go down, I think even with Diem's father breaking out. But she also knows that all of these things need to happen for the new age. She knows what she'll have to sacrifice too, her own life.
Do you think that she took the Rosebane, she talked with the Kindred, she got in on the conference call, and maybe they can see the future in some weird way, and in said conference call, they gave her the PowerPoint of here's what's going to be coming down the mountain in the near future, go fix it. But she only was able to do that through the Rosebane, and that's why she, knew she was going to be dying soon, and that's another reason why she was like, Diem, take the Rosebane, go to the conference call, get the lowdown.
Maybe I keep going back to Lumnos and the vision with, first of all, Luther when he was young, and now especially with Diem. So I don't think that the Rosebane is necessary for the Kindred to communicate with and also even prophesize to the crowns. At the same time, I definitely think she has taken some Rosebane.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's just so much with the Umbros Queen, and she's not even on the actual page herself yet.
I cannot wait to get to Yourcell. I'm so excited. She is one of my favorite characters in this entire series. But that horror show, let's get Simon off the pedestal, get him out of here. It's time to get to the last gift. 2 Sophos representatives, both with blush pink eyes, offer up a blush pink pillow containing a golden orb. The magic 8-ball! The orb of answering will respond with a yes or no to 3 questions of Diem's choice, so long as the answer is known to any living being with the Kindred's blood. Pause! Oh my God, there's so much here. We see Diem on the pages in this book ask 2 questions to the orb. 1, is her mother still alive? The orb will say yes, but the answer must be known by any living being with the kindred's blood. So my guess is because Ophi is still on the island and he heard her, he might not be aware of his surroundings because he's like a husk of a person, but because he heard her, he knew she was alive and that's why it was able to be answered?
That's kind of what I'm assuming, or maybe even Luther could count.
The only reason, because I was also thinking Luther at first, but he also just assumes she's alive. But it has to be known by.
True.
So I'm assuming it's because of Ophi. Now, question number 2. Is the man who sired Diem still alive? And again, the magic 8-ball answered yes. But also, this has to be known by a living being with kindred blood. So, of course, I'm assuming that's because it's Ophi. He has kindred blood. But hold your 1 horses!
Oh, clippity-clop, clippity-clop!
The fact that you had your coconuts readily available.
Nicole, they literally live right here at my desk for any opportunity. And you would be surprised how many opportunities I can find to add clippity-clop, clippity-clop.
You'd be surprised with how much coconut action is on the cutting room floor here at FFG. Anyway, if you're also thinking the same thing we're thinking, yes, she only asked 2 questions. There's 1 more. This is huge.
I really do think this is the gift that Penn is referring to about being very important to Burn.
Yes,
right?
Same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let's wonder, what could the 3rd question be? I feel like it could have something to do with how to kill her father, but again, it has to be a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Or what about this damn Kindred's curse we still don't really know anything about? Or about the Everflame and Diem's own connection to it? The question might have something to do with her future decision-making, like, will she have to die, or who can she trust? But, I guess that's more prophecy versus facts, and someone with Kindred's blood needs to know the answer.
I'm going to lean towards her connection to the Everflame, because if someone with Kindred's blood would know the answer, it would be Ophi. Because if he is Omnos, he came over with the other Kindred, he came over when the Everflame was present and accounted for in Amarian. So he might be the one who knows the answer, who has Kindred blood.
I love that. Well, even just in general, let's say that he is Omnos, then he would be a wealth of knowledge with anything.
Yeah.
Because he knows so much and he has that kindred. He is a kindred. So, another thing could be a cool twist if the person who has the answer is not someone we would expect to have kindred blood. I'm not saying like a random half mortal kind of like, Diem, where it's like been a secret all her life, but somebody who we might not have expected. Anyway, just thinking about that there.
Ooh, on that same front, so what if somehow the Everflame is connected to the kindred? Somehow they have similar blood. What if the answer is in Teller?
Exactly.
Oh, that makes me happy. But then wouldn't they?
I know there's a million plot holes with all of that.
I'm gonna guess
that's not our job. I do want to point out that we have to remember by the end of Heat, Diem has the power of Sophos, where she can remember everything she sees, and the power of Umbrose, where she can tell if people are lying and she can read their minds. So the Orb of Answering would have to solve something she can't get from one of those powers. Or it could even be something that she needs, like, in addition to these powers that she's getting. Let's say, she remembers something that she read with Sophos. So remember how she literally read, like, an entire library and she just has all of that on her Kindle in her head, or she finds out something with her Umbrose magic, and it's like she needs to ask a follow-up question. That's what I'm thinking of here. The Orb of Answering could be a follow-up question to an answer that she got from her new cool powers. Anyway, I'll keep noodling on possible yes or no answers that could help Diem as we keep covering the series, but that's definitely going to be in the back of my mind going forward.
Yeah. Now, Sophos has a second gift for our fair queen. They would love to invite her younger brother, Teller, to come to the realm of thought and spark to study as a mortal there. Yay, Teller! This is literally his absolute dream come true to go and study there. But Remember what the guy in the dungeon, aka Henri, told Diem about earlier last book about Sophos? Humans go there to study, but then they mysteriously die, or they become the research and they're never seen again. Dun dun dun! Diem is terrified at the idea of Teller going to face the same fate as these rumors. Remember, right now, she still believes that everyone is out to get her and the other realms are taking her brother and holding him hostage or killing him or even threatening his life to control the queen. So I don't.
And that's a possibility because that is actually going to happen.
Yes. Like, I don't blame her for immediately going to like, no, don't touch my bro. So Diem growls to the Sophos representatives that there is no way in hell they are taking Teller. This does bring up a good question that even Diem asks. How the hell do you know that I have a mortal brother? And while they say they're the keepers of the Ammarian knowledge, we here at FFG have access to the real keeper of Ammarian knowledge. So let's phone a pen and ask how the Sophos representatives knew about her mortal brother, Teller.
How does Sophos know about Teller? Well, I think it's very safe to assume that a lot of the crowns have spies in other realms. Certainly Umbrose has spies everywhere. But Sophos in particular, their descended are obsessed with knowledge and hoarding as much information as they can for themselves. And so they probably pay a lot of money to certain allies they might have in other realms to continue to slip them information about what's going on so that they can maintain their status as sort of the keepers of all of the information in Ammarian. We know that Sophos has a close relationship with House Bennett, so probably that had something to do with it. I imagine that the second everyone became aware that there was a new crown, there was a messenger hawk flying across the sacred sea from Sophos to Lumnos to House Bennett saying, tell me everything you know, because we need to know as much as we can about her. Was that malicious or scheming? I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Like we mentioned earlier this episode, and as Diem observes throughout this exchange, the Sophos Descended seem off. Hollow and shrewd smiles, something sinister about them despite their polite demeanor. Now, could this be Diem's own prejudice against Sophos after what Henri told her about how horrible they are for what they do to the mortals invited to research there? Yes, absolutely. But they are close with House Bennett, who will become a prime suspect for Andre's murder. And toward the end of Heat, the Sophos crown will have a weapon that is almost identical to the blade that kills her father. To which Doriel will tell Diem that they got it as a coronation gift from Lumnos. Which house is in charge of weapons in Lumnos? House Bennett. And the Sophos Descended know about Diem's family, specifically Teller. That's a lot of connections in the web of theories for who killed Andre. At this time, House Bennett is playing nice with Diem. They haven't had the argument with her mortal father in the room yet. So I don't think in this moment the Sophos Descended and House Bennett are actively plotting to take out the Lumnos Queen's mortal father. But something is really fishy here, which brings us back to the question, why do the Sophos Descended seem so sinister? Do they know more about Diem's true upbringing than they're letting on, especially after seeing the show of Unique Magic when Diem expelled Simon from her mind? I don't think so, because Doriel won't know when Diem visits in Heat, and obviously that is something that they would have said. Do they have plans with House Bennett regarding weapons against the mortals and know Diem will be against it? And why does the Sophos Descended look at Remus when she says they're staying extra days because they have business to conduct? Is that only business with House Bennett, or is there a little nod there that there's something going on with Remus too? I don't know, but I want to.
Well, because remember last book when Diem overhears Everflame Bennett talking about Sophos and Doriel and how they are putting together a bomb or something as powerful that will basically wipe the Guardians off the map. So my headcanon is that the Sophos Descended are staying an extra day to give a TLDR, here's how the project is going. But something's not right here.
Right?
Ah!
I know.
Because during this exchange, Everflame will come up to Diem and kind of be like, whoa, 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 what you doing talking to my homies this way? But he will say, quote, I hope your majesty has a strong plan of retaliation against the rebel scum responsible for the recent attack on my armory. Rebel scum. What else does it say on the wall after Andre's attackers leave? Quote, mortal lover, half-breed, rebel scum. Is this me saying it must be Everflame's doing? No, because we'll also have something really similar with the Honavs in a second. But something's, I'm so...
Is this one of those moments where we're waving our hands and saying, something's here?
The funny thing is Penn was like, I think it's pretty obvious. And I'm like, I'm having another obvious moment that just totally went over our head, flashbacks.
I think I'm leaning more and more toward it being a coordinated effort between House Courbois, specifically Gareth, and House Bonnet, with Sophos involved in that too, and Hanover. I know that's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but it kind of makes sense. We will get into all of that next episode.
Speaking of, after the representatives line is done, it is now time for the rest of the houses of Lumnos. Oh my God, my cheeks would be vibrating from how many smiles were happening on my face. No one has come more prepared for these house talking twos than House Honavs. Murph, Ileana, and Jean Honavs all step forward and they are ready to stir up some shit. In the last few days, since learning about this strange new queen, it looks like they've been doing a little digging around Diem's history, learning about her family, where she grew up, like her house, where another thing happens next episode. And most importantly, where she was when the king died. It looks like they've got some opportunities here to spread some gossip that just might ruin Diem's reputation. Apparently, the Honavs are not Taylor Swift rep fans.
Now, real quick, because House Bonnet spoke with Diem first, and its head of house, Everflame Bonnet, had a very different approach than the Honavs with meeting Diem. His children remembered Diem and are fond of her. It's revealed that she used to be a healer and cared once for his daughter. And he's all like, oh, well, we were so glad to have you in our home, even though I just remember. When really, she wasn't worth his time whatsoever because she was a nobody. He could be hostile toward Diem for having been a healer. He could be stirring the pot big time. He's still clear with his intentions about retaliation against the Guardians, don't get me wrong. But he's playing nice with compliments in the political game, at least for now, and that's his tactic. Then we have the Honavs, who come in with the goal of ruining Diem's reputation and putting her in her place. And I want us all to be very aware of how Remus, Gareth, and Aemonn are the ones playing nice with Hanover. These Courbois greet the other house with warmth, lots of theatrical kisses. They are all ignoring Diem as if she's not there, even Aemonn as if she's not queen or worth their attention. Remus is chatting loudly with Ileana's parents, which is another signal of the betrothal arrangement between Ileana and Luther. This is where we should have known Aemonn and Ileana are actually good friends, as he lights up talking to her brother Jean. And this is another reason why I think maybe Remus and specifically Gareth are accomplices to Andre's murder.
I think Gareth, and I could see Aemonn as well. I'm back and forth on Remus, but we'll get into that next episode. The house reception, specifically the one with the Honavs, might be a few days away. At least it's scheduled for a few days away. It will be pushed back because Diem will be in mourning. But they are already wanting to ensure they start off with their bargains, starting off with the most important. Marth is expecting that this new queen will honor Ulthur's agreement with the betrothal of Luther and Ileana. Particularly, they've been betrothed together since birth. I am genuinely curious. Why did they think this was the best time to bring this up? Was it to remind the room that a more powerful couple was available to take the throne for if, in their opinion, when Diem died from the challenging? Was it just because Ileana is impatient and she wants to dance with her boo at the ball? Like, I'm leaning towards the former, but I also don't think the latter wasn't on the table.
I'm leaning toward the former too, and I wonder if this is a way of Hanover flexing their power status and feeling out this new queen.
Yeah.
Specifically with how she feels toward Luther. Is Diem going to stick to the betrothal and honor what House Courbois agreed to, or try to take it away from Ileana by marrying Luther instead? Because after Diem is like, fuck that, Marth will change tactics so fast, pivot, and blame Diem for the death of King Ulthur, and more specifically, rope Luther into the accusations too. Planting the seed that they're in on this scheming to get the crown together. Kind of like all right, fine, if my granddaughter cannot have him, then I'm throwing him to the wolves too.
God, what a peach. Diem's leaning towards neither, because if the Honavs are going to play dirty, what's to stop her from doing the same? So Diem feigns confusion about how it's so interesting that Luther and Ileana were betrothed. She certainly never heard anything of it. Quote, in fact, he said you were nothing to him at all. How interesting that last episode it was actually Diem who said those words to Luther, but that's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, Marth did point out how the kindreds blessed them all with their free will. This was in reference to others deciding to challenge her. But if they can all exercise their own free will, then Luther sure as hell can exercise his own free will and choose whatever person he desires. Slow clap for Diem. Well, Ileana might see this and basically go apoplectic. Marth knows how to play the game, though. So she sees this as an opening for her next retaliation.
Funny Diem should mention how close she is with the prince, because this matriarch of House Honavs heard a nasty rumor that Diem posed as a mortal healer to gain access to the late king while he was mysteriously ill, and Diem was even left alone with King Ulthar on the day of his death, armed with a drawn weapon standing over the king's body. Ha! Joke's on you, Martha. Diem wasn't actually standing over his body. She had fallen. But, yeah, everything else checks out, as Marth knew it would, immediately putting Diem on the defense, as she has to openly and very publicly admit here that Marth is saying the truth. But there's a hell of a lot more context that makes this not sound as murderous as it does. Except it doesn't matter what Diem has to say to explain herself. Marth's accusation that the new queen killed the late king is spreading like wildfire in the crowd of Descended. And then Marth even brings Luther into it. He was supposed to be Ulthar's heir, so why did he allow a violent stranger alone with the king? Bad, this is bad. How many times have we said that for the series deep dive? I feel like it's a lot more than usual. The Honavs know exactly what they are doing to make Diem seem unacceptable to the other houses, to make them doubt her rule and how she came into power, her motives, everything about her, calling Diem a violent stranger, that she was posing as a mortal healer. Think about how Bennett was just like accepted that, but here they are challenging that. Enticing the prince, that the late king was ill and defenseless. Ileana throws herself in front of her grandmama as if Diem will attack.
With the uproar of gossip sounding off in the hall, and Marth finally done interrupting Diem so she can get her full accusations out. Instead, she now just sits back and admires her handiwork. She got exactly what she wanted. A room full of incredibly powerful Descended suddenly seeing Diem as a murderer and feeling distrusting towards her as the new queen and especially her motives.
As well as Luther, who has quite the reputation among the Descended. Like we were saying last episode, he's not one of the popular kids like Aemonn, but he is feared. He is serious. He is brooding. He was supposed to be the heir to the crown. It's almost like Marth was like, okay, if you won't give Ileana Luther, then we're throwing him under the bus too.
Yes. But after a small moment of panic, Diem realizes this is a moment she has to handle this all on her own. I love that, yes, later Luther will be like, I should have been there, but I love that he wasn't. I love that she was able to just absolutely slam dunk this. Because, plastering on a confident look, she raises her palm in the air and says quietly, quote, "You dare accuse House Courbois?" She's brilliant because she's saying this quietly so that everyone in the hall who's roaring in a gossip, they now have to shut the hell up so they can hear what she has to say. But why is it House Courbois, you ask? Well, Diem goes on, cutting off Marth at every fucking moment possible, just like Marth did to her. It was House Courbois who sent Ulthar to Fortos to get examined. House Courbois who stood guard at his chambers. House Courbois who hired the healers to treat him. House Courbois who prepared his food. House Courbois who cleaned his body after his death. If Marth is saying that Diem of House Courbois killed the king, then surely she is accusing all of the house of being in on such an elaborate scheme. But wait, There's more! Because Fortos healers looked at the late king and deemed him too ill, long before Diem started caring for the king. So, if that's the case, then they must be complicit in on this plan. If the healers were in on this, then my goodness, I bet the big scary king of Fortos would have been in on this as well. Again, she's cutting Marth off at how she highlights the inventing of this lie with no clear evidence and how it is treason? So, one more time. Are you sure this is what you're saying, Marth? No? Thought so. 3 cheers for Diem Bellator!
Huzzah! 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 However, as much as we may be huzzaing, Diem standing up for herself and shutting Marth and her accusations up have one big con. Diem just showed her true colors and dissolved her and Remus's plan for her to act like an empty-headed girl. Remember how she intentionally dressed tonight because this was her first real introduction to the rest of the realm. Yes, she was there at the funeral, but now is when she's meeting the others and mingling and being formally presented as the new queen. She wore all white to appear innocent and soft, and now after what just went down with the Honavs, no one is looking at her with that impression anymore. If she goes back to being a docile queen who doesn't know anything and lets her regent just handle everything, no one's gonna believe it because they just saw her claws come out and now understand she can handle herself. So much for her and Remus's plan. Though, let's be honest, what was the alternative? Remus and Gareth weren't stepping in to come to her defense. Luther wasn't around, and like Diem will tell him, she is capable on her own. So it was either let Marth run her mouth and get away with accusing the new queen of murder to all of Lumnos and representatives of the other realms, or what Diem did. Diem's solution was far better than the alternative. Her and Remus's plan may not work anymore, but worth it considering how the Honavs were causing a scene. And Remus didn't shut it down because he didn't know literally what to do.
And while this is brilliant on Diem's part, even she knows this is not the end of House Honavs and their shittiness. The rest of the house's interactions might have ended up being, not outright threatening Diem like the Honavs did, but like Lexi said, the whole plan that Diem and Remus had, it is out the window. Now, to be fair, House Courbois' youths also saw during the dinner how it was all an act. They saw her claws, if you will. And if they told their other friends in the other houses, the news that spread like wildfire.
Ileana did see it too and knew that Diem had claws. So also, what if that was part of their strategy was to be like, all right, like, let's show her real hand here, because Ileana was like, no, like, nobody's gonna fall for this little girl situation that Diem's trying to do here. So Marth and her like really pushed her to her limit so she would have to show who she truly was. No matter what, Remus and Diem's plan was very short term, so now it's even shorter term.
Well, and I'll even argue that kind of helps Diem, because if there was a rumor about the queen being a vicious little beast, but acting all coy and dull in public, I could see that also promoting discourse and like distrust with the queen. So, but at the end of the day, the thing is that the Honavs said and did not really go unnoticed. Their motives are clear. They will lose this battle, but they will prepare for war. Remember that.
Marth's accusations will even plant the seed of doubt for Diem in regard to her mother. Diem knows she herself was not involved in the king's illness and death, but her mother was the palace healer and clearly had a lot of secrets. Could she maybe have something to do with the king's death, where she executed a plot to overthrow a crown and place her daughter on the throne instead? Oh my goodness, I feel for Diem.
I would have thought the same thing. I would have been like, Mom?
Well, and exactly. I feel for Diem so much because she doesn't know what to believe about her mom anymore. And neither do we, because it's a very fair question. Did Orly have anything to do with King Ulther's demise? I'm leaning no because of how Orly wondered if she misread his illness in Spark's epilogue. And his death is connected to what Teller said in Spark, that sometimes the kindred decide when it's time for a new crown. We talked a lot about that in those first few episodes. So I think Lumnos was more so behind King Ulther's death because she was ready for Diem to be crowned. But I bet you anything Orly does want Luther on the throne so she can have a crown who is an ally. And she needed to get to Kareel. So again, that brings up the very fair question. So we decided to ask Penn.
Does Arlie have anything to do with Ulther's illness? I almost don't want to answer this because I love it just being kind of a mystery that nobody really knows. But if you really want to know, no, she did not poison the king. I'm sure she would have, honestly, if she thought she could get away with it. But by the time she was really invited into the palace to treat the king, he was already ill. It was more of an effect, not really a cause. So in my mind, the illness was brought on more by, let's say, divine sources who were ready to get this show on the road.
You all, I get such a thrill. It's like getting an A on a paper when I write all my stuff in the outline and then listen to Penn's videos and my hunch was right. Because I will, a little peek behind the scenes here, if we're asking Penn a question that we're speculating, we already always have our thoughts in the outline before even receiving Penn's response. So I promise we're not like pretending like we're guessing, and then that's not how it is whatsoever. I'm just so proud of myself.
While Diem is taking a moment away from the crowd, which, fair, girl. I love going to balls so much, and sometimes I get a little overstimulated, so there's always like a little silent room, and I'll just like go and sit in the silent room, and it's so fun. I love it.
Oh, for me, especially with young children, it's like, gotta take the baby in somewhere, and I might stay an extra few minutes.
Diem overhears two voices, though, Luther and Ileana. Remember, this is Diem's first time hearing Luther's voice since she sent him off to go deal with the Guardian situation. And it turns out that Ileana found him first. In this interaction, most things went exactly as you'd expect. Ileana's terrible, demeaning Diem and telling Luther he deserves to be king. But of course it's Ileana, and she's coming out of an interaction where Diem said Luther has nothing to say about his ex to the new queen. She's feeling a little extra pissy, accusing Luther of being more ambitious than she assumed, telling him how she'll challenge Diem herself and, I can't believe this, claim Luther as the spoils of her victory. Boo, you suck, Ileana. And because somehow that's not far enough, she'll tell him that he's already, quote, got that whore down on her knees while you... Fuck you, Ileana! Luther, of course, defends his queen and even tells Ileana that he's always expected this bitch never knew him. Go, Luther!
I mean, he must have known this since childhood, right?
I think he tried to, like, just accept it. Like, I think he tried to...
That's the Corporal way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it just hurts my heart. But when Ileana starts running her mouth again on the mortals and how Diem grew up in a swamp, again, she knows where Diem lives, or lived. Luther goes silent, letting Ileana just continue running her mouth about why he's so loyal to Diem when he wasn't that way with Ulther. But wait, another interesting thing happens in this interaction. Ileana says half-breed twice and mortal lover once in regards to Diem. Alarm! 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 These are two phrases that out of the three are going to be on the wall at Andre's murder scene. Also, what did Diem say at the end of the previous chapter about their interaction? Quote, House Honavs was preparing for war. Before this episode, I was really torn as to who Andre's murderer was going to be, but now I'm 99.999% convinced that House Honavs is part of it. Like you were saying earlier, Lex, I think it's multiple different working things here. It's 2 days out until Andre is murdered, but I bet you anything in those 2 days, they put their heads together to find, the meeting as a cover-up, and then they also arranged it so that someone else would get their hands dirty on their behalf, like they'd hire an assassin or something. As Ileana continues running her mouth, Diem is ready to leave. She is sick of hearing this girl talk about her and Luther and how they'll finally be king and queen when she's gone back. But thank goodness we have Eleanor here at this scene. She arrived just in time to tell Diem, wait! Just a moment. Let's hear Luther out for a second. And thank God she did, because Luther says, quote, let me make myself extremely clear. If you or anyone in your family makes a move against Diem, it will be the last thing you ever do. I will see to it personally that House Honavs is destroyed. Okay, now we can go.
Go back to Aemonn for their first dance, and back to our big question mark next to Aemonn. Diem confronts him about how she's not happy with him because when they've been in front of a crowd all evening, he's turned into a pompous fake who is lying about how close they are, as if he's already claimed her as his. We all know that's not Diem's style. But this was in your best interest comeback. Yes, he acted that way to shut down speculation about who else is in her bed and to keep others from looking into that too closely, like a certain mortal she's betrothed to. And damn it, he has a good point, like usual. He goes on emphasizing that he's not trying to trick her into marrying him. He wants his partner to enjoy his company. And I sincerely think that he's telling the truth here. Yes, he wants Diem to be his wife so he can be king consort, but he doesn't want to force her into marriage. He's trying to court her in his own Aemonn kind of way. But still.
And I don't think he's wrong or necessarily lying per se, like you're saying. I do think he knows exactly what to say to make Diem's heart soften with him. If he starts talking about how he wants a partner who enjoys his company, she might start feeling bad for thinking ill of him. Whether he's consciously aware that he's doing this or not, he is a master manipulator. With this being such a huge Aemonn episode, this feels like a good moment for us to do a quick check-in regarding him. An FFG Aemonn vibe check, if you will. Lexi, you have been, I won't say pro-Aemonn, but giving him the benefit of the doubt in the past. Where do you stand with Aemonn now?
I can't put him in a box because I think that's the point with Aemonn. He's definitely not good. Luther and Taryn do hate him for a reason, and we know he's capable of lying and manipulating. And yet, I don't put him at the same level as Gareth or the Honavs. I know we'll discuss this a lot next episode, but I have a hard time believing he was involved with Diem's father's death, though his dad is a different story. Yet we know how disposable the mortals are to him because of how Henri witnessed Aemonn run over a child. I think Aemonn is ultimately out for Aemonn. He is a product of his traumatic upbringing. He was beat into submission by his father, and because he has weak magic, he has learned how to prove himself powerful in other ways. He is a phoenix himself who has risen from the ashes and showed he can survive and even thrive. And he takes pride in what he's good at, which are these manipulative but still somewhat truthful conversations. This is a pretty normal way of being among the Descended too. So like the fact that he is like this is not uncommon among the Descended. It just is such a culture shock for us and Diem seeing how he is here. And I don't want to label him as bad because I feel like that does his complex character a disservice. But he sure as hell isn't good.
I agree mostly with what you're saying because I feel like he's a direct product of his upbringing. It's like that you can be raised by the same people and yet have two entirely separate personalities. Taryn decided to be everything his family wasn't, and Aemonn decided to be everything his family was. I do feel like in this section of chapters, we get a few glimpses into Aemonn's, I'm going to call it true colors. He calls Henri, who he does know his name, that mortal. And as we're walking through the passages and Diem is thanking all the servants for their hard work this evening and all of that, Aemonn mentions how that might be the first time a Corbois has thanked them. Bro. But
that goes back to their culture
exactly.
and their society.
That's what I'm saying. But like there's that major us versus them with him. But it's not even us versus them. It is him being us. He is high on that food chain, and he does not want that to go away anytime soon. It's not unlike Remus, who is very comfortable in his position and wants to do anything to keep it. Then he will go out of his way to say that they can't let mortals roam the palace. Note, he laughs when he says this. And then how there's hundreds of Corbois. They can't all be important. Again, it goes back to him feeling like he's above everyone else. Offhanded comments like this are really showing his priorities. Yes, it is absolutely the culture. He is a product of his upbringing. I don't discount that. And Luther grew up in that same place. So did Taryn. And it really just shows that his priorities are not in alignment with Diem's or what we would call a quote-unquote good person. It's like how if you've ever did you ever hear the thing of like never date someone who's rude to a waiter?
Oh, absolutely. But hold on, I do want to challenge you here just a little bit.
Okay.
Is that let's take Eleanor, for instance, here. Yeah. When they were walking around and meeting all the servants and stuff, yes, she was complimenting some of them and such. And she didn't mention to Diem about them being Corbois, which again is something that she should have said. So I think that it's just so ingrained in them that I don't know if I could say that this is really showing their priorities, because what would the alternative be? Even Luther in his bonus chapter says, you know, like, putting you back in your place.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
he cringes because he's like, oh, like, I don't mean it like that, but it still is such a product of of my upbringing.
Well, he was putting on an act. He was putting on the Keeper of the Laws mask.
I don't think that was entirely an act.
Okay, you bring up a good point there. I hear you, and the way that I'm looking at this is Aemonn, I'm putting him in the box with Remus and Gareth, where it's like his priorities are to keep his status as high as possible.
Yes.
Versus for the greater good. That is where I'm not going to say anti-Aemonn, because I think he's a really interesting character, and I hope he has a open his eyes moment. And I don't know if he's going to.
While I'm agreeing with you, I'm just having fun playing devil's advocate here.
Of course you are.
Because let's take Eleanor. Eleanor showed her ambition to Diem and was very much like, I want to have a seat at the table. And I think that I can prove that I can. That's her taking her chance at power. Now, it's not nearly the same effect as, you know, Remus and Aemonn, and I'm not putting her in that same category. But it is still, I'm just looking at it with a different character who has shown their own ambitions too.
True. And Eleanor was like, how can I serve you, my queen? Whereas Aemonn is like, how can I manipulate the queen?
True. Yes. Yes. To get away from an awkward question about what she asked Luther to do in regard to Henry, Diem gets caught up in dancing with Taryn. Oh, hi, Taryn. Yay! Haven't seen you in a minute. Taryn is Aemond's little brother, and they absolutely hate each other. So you can imagine his reaction when Diem insists there is a good guy underneath. He is uncharacteristically cold, and it's obvious there is a lot that Taryn wants to say, but won't. We will find out that Taryn felt betrayed by his big brother when he wouldn't protect him from their father. Aemonn actually sided with their father, despite having received the same treatment himself. So Luther stepped in to watch out for Taryn and be his real brother, and that really leaves an emotional scar.
Immediately going to a one-on-one scene with Taryn is interesting because he does automatically believe the worst in Aemonn. So whether Aemonn is genuine or manipulative, like, you know, we think he is, it doesn't matter because Taryn will always believe it is whatever the worst possible outcome could possibly be. Is he right? Maybe. We don't know. But he's so incredibly biased. Understandably, if you're in his POV. And it does make me nervous when Taryn says, quote, that's how he works, he, meaning Aemonn. He pretends to be your friend until he knows your weakness. Then he's your worst enemy you could ever have. You can't trust him. That sounds like analyzing someone's behavior over a brotherly feud.
Absolutely. And I think we'll see more of this side of Aemonn and Burn.
Oh.
To be honest, I would be surprised if he gets a full redemption arc.
Same.
I think once he's settled into his own powerful status as the Keeper of the Laws, he will start using the information he has on Diem against her.
I think we have enough redemption arc juju out for Henry that I can't imagine some being left for Aemonn. Woof.
We have to remember that in Heat, Diem is the enemy of the crowns after all. And I think that Aemonn will turn on her in a second for the good of the realm from his perspective, and more so so that he can be more powerful.
I'm done talking about Aemonn. Let's go to Taryn. Taryn finally gathers the courage. Diem, please don't marry him. Well, fuck. Luther must have told Taryn about Henry. No! Note how Diem immediately thinks Luther told Taryn. Not Aemonn, not Eleanor, Luther. Again, she is so conditioned to believe the worst about Luther as her coping mechanism to keep pushing him away. But an interesting turn of events. Taryn goes on, and Diem finally breaks and says, how does he know about Henry? And she knows how it looks bad and how Henry only agreed to marry her to become king. And wait, who the fuck is Henry? He was talking about Aemonn. Oops. Okay, I love how she tried, air quotes, to defend Henry, saying about him only marrying her to become king is not a vote of confidence, Diem. Wow. Taryn was convinced of Aemonn's act this evening. Like, that's how convincing it was. Yikes. So when it's like, surprise, there's another one, Taryn's mind goes into hyperdrive. First, he's shocked because it's immortal, and he's like, that's bad. That's bad, bad, bad. His second thought is does Luther know? And I love this. He's worried if his best friend is out here getting his heart broken because Taryn sees how much Luther has fallen for Diem. But wait, that actually makes sense now. Taryn says it makes sense why Luther won't, what? Taryn? I'm assuming the end of that sentence was why he won't act on his feelings.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, yeah.
Some version of that. It's so sweet that he immediately is like, I need to go find Luther. He wants to make sure his friend is okay. God, I love him.
While trying to escape a throng of people vying for the queen's attention, Diem successfully gets away from the crowd and subsequently Perth! Oh boy, poor Perth this episode. But only to get cornered by Jean Hanover, Marth's grandson and older brother of Ileana. Spoiler alert, he sucks just as much as the rest of the Hanovers. And no way are the Hanovers going to allow Diem to get away with her pushback and shutting down of this house and their accusations from earlier. They came to this ball with the goal of dragging Diem through the mud, and they are not done yet. Marth took her shot about Diem being responsible for the death of King Ulthar and made sure the rumors spread among the other houses. And now Jean is coming in for round 2, where he can target Diem's inability to use her magic.
Starting off with the opening line, calling her Diem Bellator. Ooh, not good, because she is Diem Corbois. This is just a little hint to Diem as to how much they've researched about her family, which means they know her surname, which means it wouldn't be that hard to figure out who her father is. And remember earlier, Ileana mentioned she knows where Diem grew up. This is just a neon sign pointing to the Hanovers right here.
Jean begins taunting Diem to show off her magic and shut down the rumor that she can't use it. And no, what she did at the funeral with her dress and her skin, it doesn't count. That wasn't truly wielding her magic. In fact, maybe it was just a trick of the sun. But no, that can't be possible. She's the crown. She's the most powerful Umbros Descended. So she has to be able to easily prove them wrong. Right?
Right after Jean mentions her full name, the Hanovers begin closing into a circle around Diem. Where have we seen this type of behavior before? Well, from the Guardians' last book when Diem was running to the armory explosion. I love and hate this parallelism. I hate it because it's terrifying for Diem and any person, specifically women, but I also love it because it's just that little reminder of the enemies on both sides.
It cannot be overstated how impossible it seems that the queen of a realm cannot use magic. We've learned how important strong magic is for the Descended, and that the crown is obviously the most important Descended among them. That's why they're chosen as a crown. All Descended, including these Hanovers, have grown up learning how to hone their magic. The idea of not being able to use their magic, even for the weaker Descended, is incomprehensible. Make it a newly crowned queen who can't use her magic? Next level. Absolutely next level. It's embarrassing for the realm. It makes them vulnerable to threats because they need a crown who can wield their magic and, in turn, wield their power as the realm's ruler.
It comes as no surprise that Jean threatens to challenge Diem at the challenging. First of many times he will do this move. But what is extra context for us readers is that he sees this as a duty as part of the 20 houses. Yes, I'd say that's part of his reasoning to wanting to challenge this queen. Her being half mortal is another huge reason. But let's say he's fully duty bound to challenge her, and that's the whole reason so that he can sleep at night. After all, a crown without magic would make their realm vulnerable. Mortals would feel like they would have such a higher success rate attacking because they wouldn't fear a non-magical queen. This is a good reminder for us readers that this is so much bigger than just prejudice against Diem. Don't get me wrong, that's there too. But they view a crown's weakness as the mortals believing they would have strength. And in this realm, where they have been trampling over mortals their whole lives, that simply will not do.
Pressured by these taunts and threats and feeling like prey for these hungry wolves closing in on her, Diem looks inward to call upon her godhood. Hello, can you help me? She wants to prove them wrong and make them shut up about her inability to use magic, to turn this game of humiliation back on them. She recognizes the importance of showing her strength as the crown and needs to seize this opportunity before the rumors get worse and she's put in even more danger. She just has to give in to the voice, to her godhood, and she searches for it, asking it to come out and help her, trying to conjure it with her emotions. But her godhood is silent and her emotions are numb. Diem will shortly wonder if it refused to help because her godhood knew better than for her to try and wield her magic in this ballroom full of people. She can't control her magic and could accidentally blow the place up, the exact thing she's just prevented with the Guardian's attack. I'm sorry, should not be laughing, but the irony is rich. And while this may absolutely be true, you know me and how I love talking about Diem's relationship with her godhood and how she'll tap into her connection with it finally during the challenging.
I love that moment where she realizes why she wasn't able to call it forth. This is at the challenging. Previously, like in this scene, Diem is begging it to appear and save her. But the magic is like, girl, I can only do so much to you. You need to learn how to save yourself, which is fair. And she could use some help.
In this moment at the ball, she's trying to pull it out and give in to its power to prove she can wield magic. She views her godhood as separate from her, as its own entity that answers her or that she answers to, with a mind of its own that calls her to fight and surrender to the power. But the magic doesn't answer her. It's part of her. And she will have to truly embrace and accept that about herself before she is ready to tap into the real power she possesses.
Now, it would not be a Luther entrance without something to do with the knees. When Jean asks Diem, quote, "What will we do with you?" a voice comes out of the darkness and says, "Nail!" "That's right, sir!" Jean immediately changes his demeanor. He goes pale and panicked. But just in case Jean didn't feel terrified enough, quote, "Keep your hands off my queen, and you will address her by her title, or I will rip out your tongue with my hands and nail it to the door of House Honavs." I love a good toucher and die twist. Fun fact, this was one of the questions at our spicy trivia with the Fantasy Fan Club, which also was the Tentacles this past weekend. And I was so disappointed in myself that I hesitated with this question of like, who said this quote? And Lexi got the point, but it's fine. I'm clearly over it. What with it being Luther, he doesn't just say that he's the big bad wolf and therefore protects the damsel in distress. No, he is still spreading the good word about Diem's magic, saying that Jean would be a pile of ash, and Diem is too much for Jean to handle. Brava, sir.
Who's ready for one of the best exchanges between Diem and Luther in the whole series?
Me!
Because we're to chapter 28, baby, aka the dancing chapter. First things first, I adore how Diem is like, dancing isn't half bad. The majority of the past year since her mother's disappearance, the few months since going off the flame route, and especially this last week now with the Luminous Crown, Diem's had the weight of the world on her shoulders. She feels broken. She's inwardly a hot mess. She is barely hanging on by a thread. And she gets this time to just have fun and dance the rest of the night away. Eleanor ensures that she does have a good time by pairing her with safe Descended, most of whom are elders and important figures in their houses, and coaching her through how to make a good first impression.
Which, pause, one of these coaches is, don't talk about carrots. It's a very sensitive subject. And maybe I exercised my power a little too hard. But I needed to know. I needed to know why carrots were such a sensitive subject. So you know what we did? You bet you know what we did. We reached out to Penn and we asked her our final of 7 questions for this episode. And here's what she said.
So you want to know what makes carrots a sensitive subject, huh? Well, you know, sometimes when you're young and you have a lot to drink, things get a little out of hand. I'd love to tell you the details, but I just could never share such a sensitive story from someone else.
But that's not to say Diem has forgotten about the Guardians and Henri. That guilt and worry is always on her mind. Yet Diem is giving herself permission to have fun, to compartmentalize her very real concerns and enjoy the moment. I want to commend her for that because I think so many of us can feel a heavy guilt of holding space for positive feelings when it feels like everything is falling apart. The two feelings, enjoying a moment of happiness and never forgetting about the important problems, they can coexist. After all, Diem may not have many more chances at happiness with the challenging looming over her and making plenty of enemies.
I want to take a moment and truly appreciate how hard this has been for Diem to balance. She's handing the Honavs their asses. She's dealing with courtly politics, all while knowing her friendship and her relationship with Henri is most likely over, and she's jumping at every dropped dish or loud drum, wondering if it's the Guardians coming in to attack. I am in awe of our girl this episode. She is multitasking and compartmentalizing like crazy, and I'm just really proud of her.
And she's keeping her head in the game with hours of introductions and schmoozing and politicking and all of that. Like, holy moly. As the final song of the evening begins, our favorite handsome Courbois comes up to Diem to secure his last dance with the queen. Just kidding. It's Aemonn. Calling her Diem dear. And oh, let's honor your reign and finish this night as it began together. But even as he's positioning himself as the future king consort, he summons her with a come. This is not the first time Aemonn is bossing her around. And while it might seem flirty and commanding like we prefer in our MMCs, I think this is Aemonn's true colors really shining through. This is not MMC material here. He's not truly looking to serve Diem. He's looking to be her equal in political power with command like a king. And it makes me feel like it's not just a consort that he wants to be. Yeah.
Well, remember what Henry said earlier in Luther's POV, saying about how, like, you serve her, I stand next to her.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the same mindset that Aemonn has around this.
Aemonn is willing to serve her to get next to her. Yeah. And then that's where he's going to have his real power. Yeah.
But don't worry, friends. Luther steps in and he requests a dance from his queen.
I love the differences in how these two men also address Diem. Aemonn calls her by her first name, along with dear and honey and these pet names that makes Nicole just absolutely want to combust. While Luther calls her my queen. Just, so different.
And before Diem can think about how bad it looks that she's ditching her date for the man that Aemonn hates most, the man who was supposed to be king, she takes his hand.
I believe this is the last time Diem plays along with Aemonn's games. And he doesn't go trying to cozy up to her as king consort for a while after this. I think when Diem snubs Aemonn here for Luther, he takes it very personally and is like, well then fuck you then. After Diem's father will die, Aemonn will try to comfort her. And it is so cringy, like way worse than what we've experienced here so far. And she's so over it and it goes so badly. But here, again, if House Honavs has a hand in Andre's death, could Aemonn be part of it? I know I've said I don't really think that, but you always got to entertain the idea. Could Aemonn be part of it, even by passing information along to Ileana?
Like he does in Heat of the Everflame, where he does tell Ileana that she was engaged to Henri. That doesn't go over very well because she's not engaged to him anymore then.
Exactly.
Diem reaches for Luther's hand and he weaves their fingers together and places them joined on his chest. I am about to be a puddle. I have been waiting for this moment. Oh my God. And for just a minute, the rest of the world fades away, leaving only the queen and her prince. Her prince. Yes, this is the first time we get a her prince. Luckily, it will not be the last. With them finally having their moment alone-ish, since she sent Henri to the dungeons, it's time for a quick TLDR about what they've been up to since. It's not at all a distraction for Diem's skin feeling like she's about to combust and how attracted she is to this man. We've talked a lot about what's been happening on Luther's side, about Diem's side, so here's the things that we didn't talk about. Luther confirms that the Guardians were sent home and that he let them keep their blades, but he threw their bombs and other weapons into the sea. It's going to take them a while to restock. Smart thinking, Luther. He confesses he also sent Henri home from the dungeons. And knowing how much the ache of her and Henri's relationship is weighing on her, Luther assures Diem that Henri will forgive her. The way things were left off with Henri, Luther seemed to open his eyes, if you will, to the idea that maybe, just maybe, life is a little hard for Diem right now. So is Luther here thinking / hoping that it was enough to get Henri to forgive Diem? Or is he fibbing? I don't think it's lying, but is he fibbing to try and soothe that hurt so she's not sad?
Maybe a little bit of both?
Yeah, I could see that.
Like you're saying, I don't think he's technically lying to her, but telling Diem what she wants to hear, what she needs to hear to keep herself a tiny bit together, even if Luther does not believe this himself. Or maybe this is Luther's way of opening Diem's eyes to Henri and that he won't actually forgive her. But Luther is saying the opposite to help Diem realize the truth, because he does follow up with, if he loves you, he'll understand why you did it.
I almost feel like it's Luther testing Henri, if you will. Luther's given Henri everything he needs to pull his head out of his ass after their confrontation in Luther's POV chapter. And now it's time for Henri to finally show her that their love is true enough to endure anything. So it's almost like Luther is saying, if he's smart, he'll forgive you. Now, how does Luther know that true love will conquer all, though? Earlier, as Diem and Luther began their dance, there's a moment of her putting a name to the rightness she feels in his arms. She feels safe. She feels protected. She feels accepted and loved. Here, in this moment, Diem is seeing that love Luther is pouring out to her in his gaze. He knows true love will endure anything because it is with her. He is so unbelievably in love with her, and he knows that that love will not be shaken by anything, unlike Henry's love. It's almost like he's saying, like, I know this because I'm so in love with you. Open your eyes!
Dancing in Luther's arms and drowning in him, because who wouldn't? Diem lets her shields down for a moment and lets herself be vulnerable. She's been so strong tonight at the ball and put up with a whole lot, all while she is really, really struggling internally. She doesn't have to pretend with Luther like she does with everyone else. He gets her unfiltered thoughts because he is her safe space. So Diem's walls crack open and she shares that she doesn't know what to do about any of these big problems, and that she pretends to know what she's doing, but it's all a fraud and she's just letting everyone down instead. And how is she supposed to take down the crowns and the Descended when she can't stop making mistakes? Oh, shit! Wasn't supposed to say that! Her walls go down a little too much, and Diem lets her biggest secret out to someone she doesn't think she should have told. By definition, she's right. She should not have just said that to him. Luther is, number one, a Descended. He is also the keeper of the laws. He is a powerful courbois. He is helping her acclimate into this family and political setting and the Descended world. And now she just accidentally let it slip that she wants to destroy all of that. And that she's basically been a double agent this whole week since she got the crown. But she said it because it came out so naturally. Because, again, Luther is her safe space.
Well, and it turns out that confession might have actually been the right thing to say. Diem has been asking, if not begging, Luther why he is so unshakably devoted to her. And here he finally shares that this is why. It's at least a little Billy, 60% of it. Earlier in his bonus POV chapter, he wonders what would happen if he finally opened up to Diem about his motives, his background, all of it. Basically, exactly what Diem has been asking for him from last episode that we kind of gave him an L for. And he wonders if he shares all of it, will it finally close the distance between them? So Luther starts with this truth. Before Diem got the crown, Luther felt an urging towards Diem. He knew it was from Lumnos. She wanted change and believes that Diem can achieve it. Again, I will give Luther credit for 60% of this truth. It's not all of it, and he'll later say that it was Lumnos coming to him in a vision and saying specifically you must serve the Grey-Eyed Queen, but that'll come later. With how peace-oriented Lumnos was, Luther believes wholeheartedly that he was being urged to serve Diem because it will bring back the change that Lumnos wanted. And as he says here, Diem is strong and brave and resilient, and she never stops fighting. And even when Diem says that those qualities make her reckless, Luther disagrees. Quote, they make you the queen that we need. And as Luther lays his forehead so it's flush with hers, he says, quote, you are my queen and I am your sword. Point me at your enemies and watch them fall. Lead this world, Diem, and I will follow you. Into war, into death, into the tundra of hell itself. You are the fate my heart was spared for. As long as it beats, you will never fight alone. I am melting. I am melting.
As Luther offers her assurance that she is the leader this realm and world need if they want to see peace in this land, Diem feels the power of his words. She arrived to the palace with the intention to destroy the Descended from inside. That's it. That was her plan. And while her goal to create justice and equality absolutely 1,000,000% still stands, she's learned it's not us versus them as she originally thought. There are good-hearted Descended who hold the same values and goals as her. And all the rebels aren't innocent. Vance, we're looking at you. This gets Diem coming to terms with the fact that yes, there is a war coming, and instead of joining an army like she initially thought about doing back in Spark, now she's like, maybe I can lead one. This is a huge step for Diem, who has worn the shoes of a leader for a week now. But not until this moment does she believe in herself that maybe she can lead these two people into a better society and make real change. Yes, this war will be bloody, but if there's a leader who advocates for peace and justice for the innocent, that's gotta be good, right?
Diem on the edge of basically melting into a puddle and absorbing herself into Luther. His face shifts, so their noses graze and their lips are a hair's breadth apart. And Diem gives in, asking Luther what would happen if they gave into this thing between them. Henri, who? Don't care, Diem. Give in, girl, give in. But Something is itching at the back of Diem's mind because at the dinner, Luther mentions how he has no interest in marrying her, only serving her. And as the unasked question hangs between them, it feels like Diem's future was holding its breath, waiting for his answer. This is huge right here. We know that Diem is someone who is shaky at best when it comes to commitment. So for her to talk about her future openly for the first time, especially when it comes to love, this is no small thing. And you all know me. Allow me to quote the entirety of Luther's response to Diem's unasked question.
Could I just interject real quickly? Nicole and I were recently asked to be featured for something, and it asked several things and included what was the last romance book that you read. And Nicole did not only include Glow, she included this entire speech too. And it's like, Nicole, they didn't ask for a quote. She's like, I don't care. I'm giving them one anyway. It's like, okay.
I would be shocked if that makes it into the article, but just knowing that someone else has it is all I needed. Oh my God.
Please continue.
So to answer the unasked question, why is he interested in serving her, not marrying her? Luther says, quote, every person in this room wants something from you. They look at you and they see the things they want to take. I know because I lived it. Yes, he has. Ileana is literally still trying to take pieces of him. And he's seeing Henri and Aemonn and feeling, and not entirely wrongly feeling, that they're doing the exact same thing to her. He goes on, quote, when you took the crown, I swore to be different, to serve your goals, not mine. I told myself even if you had no one else, you would at least have me. I never wanted to become just another person who wanted to steal a piece of you for themselves. This is why I believe he did what he did at the dinner the other night. He said what he said. He wanted so badly to uphold this promise he made regarding Diem and not wanting something from her. But he goes on, quote, and I have failed, completely, irreversibly failed. I don't just want a piece of you. I want them all. I want every breath, every laugh, every tear, every taste of your mouth, every inch of your skin. I want to kneel at your feet. There's the knees. I want to kneel at your feet, soaked in the blood of your enemies, then worship your body until you scream my name. Yes, Diem, I want to serve you in every way a man can. I don't think I've ever read something in my life that made me stop breathing the way that this did. But I am not done because it goes on, quote, I want to burn alive in that fire in your eyes. I want it to melt me down and forge me into the weapon you need me to be. How often does Diem mention fire, burning, etc. when she talks about love and passion? This is what she's wanting. This is him saying, I want the exact same explosive chemistry that you do. And lastly, quote, I want to stand by your side for the rest of my life, and I don't need you to marry me and make me a fucking king to do it. I pledged you my loyalty, and you have it, no matter your choice. But I cannot keep lying to you or to myself. I want all of you, Diem. You already have all of me. I can't believe I'm about to say this next sentence, but I wonder if part of Luther is finally saying this and admitting this to Diem because of the conversation he just had with Henri. He saw how much Henri was wanting to use her as a tool for the Guardians and how furious he was with her now that she's not working with him. Again, this is at least in Henri's eyes. And so Luther is like, I want to be open with her, saying how he wants her as is. He wants her, not what she can do for him. So I think that this was entirely kicked off by him finally being like, if Henri's going to be a fucking chicken shit, I'm not.
I think all of that and the Umbros Descended kind of egging him on a little bit too.
Oh, 100%.
Where it's like, you want to tell her a few important things, and yeah. And I'm so glad he did. In this Magic Field segment of the episode, let's tap into our Umbros magic. Hey, I get it. I love it when it all makes sense here. And turn our full attention to important foreshadowing moments for the rest of this book and the series, including speculations for Book 4, Burn of the Everflame.
When Henri is facing off with Diem, a person steps into the room, and Diem assumes, based off the look on Henri's face, aka the hatred on it, that it is Luther. Again, because she still believes that Luther is the one who ran over the boy and killed him, thus leading Henri in a rage to join the Guardians. But oh no, it is Aemonn who enters enters the room. Just another hint for us that Aemonn is that descendant who killed the boy. Diem thinks about the very hypothetical situation that if the roles were reversed and a group of Descended had come to threaten and hurt her family, like her father and Teller, there would be no one in Amarian who would stop her from killing them. Next episode, there will be an unknown group that will kill her father, and Diem will feel a calling to end them more than ever before. Which brings me to a question. When we finally get Diem's father's killer, do you think Diem will kill them? Because I think yes.
Yes. I like to think so, where her claws really come out and shows she's capable of killing those who truly deserve it, who have done unspeakable things. Kind of like what we'll see with Ron and how he tries to kill her after she lets him go. She doesn't technically purposefully kill him, but he still goes poof. But then that's also not like with Vance after he tries to eliminate a bunch of children, and there's a whole lot of layers to all of that I won't get into, but she lets him go. Now, she didn't know that he was trying to kill the children at that moment, but I don't think that would have changed her perspective.
No, because remember, there's also like the other guardians around her that if they saw a Descended crown killing someone, that would just rally them behind Ophiuchi even harder.
Yeah, that's true.
There's other things happening in that moment where we will get all into that dissection and analysis. Do I agree with her? Yes and no, but I definitely think she would kill, unless it's Breck, and Breck is like, hey, remember that favor? I'm calling it in. Don't kill me. Thanks.
I do think that something very interesting about Diem's character is how she does not want to kill, and she is so fiery and aggressive, and it's almost like seems like that should be her nature, but the nice thing is that it's not, because otherwise she would be kind of crazy. And so I wonder if this Diem's father's killer is going to really challenge her, even in a way she hasn't even seen yet, which is really fucking saying something.
I know.
And so, like, as I'm talking all this out, I actually do think that she will not personally kill Andre's killer. Yes.
Okay, that'll be a fun bet for when we get to Burn. In Luther's POV, he is looking at Diem and wondering what would happen if he finally tells her every secret. And in his mind, the Umbros Descended says, quote, I can read minds, but she can't. Not yet, but soon enough she will be able to.
Remus tells Diem that House Bennett provides weapons to all of Lumnos, and if she interferes with their business, then every last house will rise up to challenge her. Well, every last house, and then some, will rise up to challenge her. And technically, she did interfere with his business back in Spark. So, check, check. Eleanor lets Diem in on some gossip about Jean Hanover. He's a frequent customer of the mortal brothels. Which, yep, we already know from Luther's book that Zelric is his son. But we will see this in a much bigger way in Heat. While dancing with Luther, Diem imagines what the Umbrose magic could do if it's unleashed in a war. Well, first of all, she will get the Umbrose power, so we might see something like this from her. Obviously, it would be to save lives, like here with the Guardians. But who knows what else is possible in this war with that kind of magic at play? And also, does Ophiuchi have these kind of powers too? Because we have not seen him use the other realms' magic, have we?
No, you're right. We've only seen him use, I think, the silvery
yeah, like
stuff.
the kindred magic, we'll call it. Yeah, so interesting.
What if that's the curse?
Oh. I'm going to put a pin
Put a pin in that.
During the same conversation, Luther says, quote, if the Umbrose Queen believes she can control you with what her Descended learn, she'll want you on the throne. Any move she makes will come after the coronation. When they're in Umbrose in Heat, your cell will absolutely have a lot she wants to talk to Diem about. But they won't really get into it. Not nearly enough anyway. And gosh darn it, your cell, we wish you were still with us because we have questions.
Gone too soon, my girl. Maybe she's up in the conference call and we'll be able to talk to her later. Now it is time to enter the Sophos Library, where each episode Lexi guides us through a world building topic to deepen our understanding of this world and the magic within it.
Today's Sophos Library topic is gifts from other realms and magical devices. It'll be a fairly short segment, and luckily, we called in reinforcements with the ultimate resource to add extra context. You all, I cannot tell you how wonderful it is having the author, on call here. Oh my goodness, I love it so much. Let's start with the purpose of these other realms' presence at a new Crown's Ascension Ball. During the Ascension Ball, 2 representatives from the 8 other realms bring a gift on behalf of their crown. This gift exchange is done during the beginning of the ball as an outward-facing gesture of diplomacy because being first in line for the introductions is a sign of importance. But really, it's a not-so-subtle way to tell them to leave the realm and not stay the night. Most representatives do leave shortly after giving their gift to the crown because they want to get back to their own realm where they have their magic again. But it's not a requirement for them to leave as soon as possible. All right, now let's move on to the types of coronation gifts and how they are representative of the realms. So we don't have many examples to go off of here, so we're going to do our best. Realms typically guard their magic and secrets close to their chests, but these gifts are one of the few exceptions. The gifts are a direct reflection of each realm, though it's not specified how they work or why they can work outside the realms. More on that soon from Penn. But we do get a good look into the minds of these other crowns, getting a sense for what they think is important for a new crown to have. Fortos likes giving weapons. It's noted that Diem is not the only crown to receive one, which makes sense, given they are hard-nosed, rule-obsessed soldiers, whose realm is the headquarters and training grounds of the Amarian army. Fortosian steel is from Fortos, right? Then we have Phanos with this gift of the animals, which falls perfectly into their hunt or become the prey mentality, as well as their general stance as apex predators. Then there's Umbrose, and we've seen this example of them gifting a potion to cure sicknesses. They are known for being the primary resource of food and medicinal herbs for the entire continent, so again, makes sense. This gift example we've seen from Igneos is interesting because it's armor, but it's like protection from the infamously violent Descended who roam the harsh Igneos deserts, given they are more likely to shoot first, ask questions later. I'm very curious if Umbrose ever actually gives gifts or if they just give advice. I feel like this was a little bit of a unique situation with Diem, but I wouldn't be extremely surprised if their gift was usually cryptic advice or prophetic wisdom, because it's a realm that can read minds and they have so much knowledge, and not the Sophos kind of knowledge, right? I don't think that this could be any more on the nose if that is their usual gift. Moving on to Miros, we got the compass that we talked a lot about. And yeah, makes sense. With Miros being sailors who love the sea, they always want to find their way home or what they desire most. So I do think that their gifts, again, really about direction and travel and being an adventurer, but still knowing where home is. Sophos, we actually know the most about here, I believe. They are known to give out one of their super secret advanced contraptions, from speedboats to megaphones to enchanted orbs of answering. The realm of Sophos is obsessed with research, inventions, and knowledge. Last but not least, we have Montios. We know that they gave Diem a spelled fur coat. They live in a place that is so cold, all the humans had to be kicked out for their own safety. And so I wonder, again, cold weather, a spelled coat, again, makes total sense coming from their realm there. As far as for Lumnos gifts, all we know is that the Sophos crown was gifted by Lumnos a beautiful jeweled blade for their coronation, which checks out for Lumnos gifting dazzling jeweled objects. Lumnos is known for its wealth on full display, and I think that pretty much any gift that they give has a lot of jewels. So now going forward, like Diem, we're curious about how the magic of these items work outside their own realms, and how are they made and infused with magic. So friends, for the first time ever, I'm going to hand these Sophos library reins over to the world-building queen herself, Penn Cole, so she can wrap up this segment with insights not included in the books.
So you want to know all about the coronation gifts. Well, in terms of the magic behind them, do you know how in Spark, Luther's having a conversation with Diem and he's talking about how the light magic works, how it's like a magnifying glass that focuses light into a beam that can make it really hot and really destructive. And so there's kind of a logic and a science behind how that magic works. And then she says, well, what about the shadow magic? Like that, how does that work? And he says, that, Miss Bellator, is why we call it magic. I think the coronation gifts are a little bit of the same thing. There is some logic behind some of them. We already know from the necklace she gets at the end of Heat, or at the end of Glow, that Descended can imbue a little bit of their magic into objects. And sometimes, not always, not in the case of the necklace, that gives the object some magical power. We also see things like the thing they use to announce the loudspeaker at the challenging, and certain other times in the book where we see that there's a little bit of magic imbued into a physical object that gives it the power to do something that the person who wields that magic could potentially have done. So some of the gifts are examples of that. I think some of them are passed down from the kindred who have more sophisticated magic and are able to do much more complicated things. And some of them are just magic. So use your imagination, I guess we'll say. In terms of whether they are always tailored or always generic, again, it probably depends on the crown. In some of these cases, the person who receives the crown is someone well-known who has been very powerful. For example, if Luther had taken the crown, I think a lot of the other realms knew about him and probably knew people in the realm that could say, oh, he likes this, or, he values this. And so they might tailor a gift to that to try and curry favor with him. In this case, they really didn't know anything about her at all. So they probably just plucked something that they had from their vault of magical objects in their palaces and hoped for the best. Is there anything else you should know about them? At least one of them will become very important in Burn. Let's just say that.
Let us close out this episode with skipping around the apple orchard and discussing our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters.
When Aemonn hears yelling, he says, 100 gold marks, says it's my brother. Well, ha! It was Henri. So Aemonn, you owe Diem 100 gold marks. Honestly, I know nobody's going to care, but I did.
Some favorite Taryn lines, calling Aemonn a, quote, ugly growth on Diem's arm. Then when Aemonn tells him to go kiss a cousin's ass or something, Taryn says, quote, now that you mention it, cousin Diem does have quite a nice round little ass. And then he gets cut off. No wonder him and Diem get along so well. Every moment of Luther's internal monologue around Diem and the love he feels that she deserves, and just honestly everything from his POV, it's so good. And I'd be lying if Luther's internal monologue about Henri didn't make me just giddy. I love how he's like, I want to throat punch this guy, but I won't. I kind of wish you did. Less of a favorite moment, but this is more of a, interesting comparison. After Aemonn tells Taryn to go off and be a good little sheep, Diem almost goes into a full lecture with Aemonn about sibling love and loyalty. No spoilers, but this does remind me a lot of our coverage in later books around Feyre in the ACOTAR series. It's like Diem, because she had a happy family and loves her siblings, she believes that everyone should. And frankly, that's not the case sometimes.
What a good call out. Oh my gosh.
I love that during the dance portion of the evening, Luther kept getting approached by women, specifically Ileana. Girl, take a hint! But Luther finally relents with Lily and dances a fun, jaunty tune with his little sister. I may have had a lot to say about Aemonn this episode, and I'm sure I'm not done. I'm sure I'll continue on with episodes 5,
I don't know what else to say about him at this point.
I'll have a lot in heat when we're in
that's different, yeah.
But I do love that he's described as prancing in his thick feather cape. Like, I just see...
He's such a show pony.
He is such a show pony.
We did it, friends. Thank you so much for listening to episode 4 of our Glow of the Everflame deep dive.
Next Monday, we are continuing with Glow of the Everflame, episode 5, chapters 29 through 37. Ooh, get your tissues out, friends, and your detective hats on for this episode.
Let's give the biggest warm welcome to our newest Crowns Council members.
Thank you so much for joining Brittany K, Sarah S, Rebecca A, and Liz B. Welcome. We appreciate you all so much. Thank you for supporting the show.
Really, thank you so much for being part of this community. It means everything to us. And friends, if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted out on the podcast and to be showered with love too, join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. Link is also in the show notes.
Thank you, as always, to our top Sophos scholar, aka our content researcher, Brooke, and our executive producer, aka our sanity manager, Hayden.
We are very active on social media with weekly trivia, games, and lots more. So please be sure to follow us on Instagram and/or TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube or want to watch on YouTube, I literally wore a giant pink squid hat today with a princess crown that I got from my daughter's dress-up closet. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button to keep following along. We're so close to 50,000, and you know us, we don't really talk about numbers, but that's a really big milestone, and we would love for you to contribute and help us out with it.
While you are smashing buttons, please, please, please hit that 5-star button on whatever podcasting platform you are listening on. And friendly reminder, don't just do it for Fantasy Fangirls, although please do it for Fantasy Fangirls, but also please, please, please do this for whatever shows you listen to on the reg. It is so helpful for your fellow podcasters out there. And last but not least, share this episode with your fellow Everflame friends. If you all had a bet as to how many times we'd say Ball's expert this episode, I honestly don't know.
I have no idea. I didn't keep, honestly, not as many as I thought.
Not as many as I thought either. I think we just got too mad at Aemonn. But if you want to text this episode to your friends group and see who won, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
The suit is emblazoned with flame squirts.
I was very much wondering what you were trying to say there.
I want to say spurts. We're going to go with spurts. The suit...
With flames squirting out.